Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, our participants from Sri Lanka, and I'm Nalika Kodikara, Councillor Commercial of the Sri Lanka High Commission in Singapore. I welcome you all for the online workshop on the development of recreational boating industry in Sri Lanka. Today, our program includes opening presentations followed by 2 panel discussions and a roundtable discussion. Panel 1 will be focused on the development of export sector, particularly boat manufacturing, and panel 2 will be focused on the development of domestic sector, emphasizing that infrastructure, marina development, and nautical tourism. I'm delighted to share with you that we have a very eminent, diverse panel for both sessions, and they are not only from Sri Lanka and Singapore, they are from Thailand, Hong Kong, and UK. I wish to mention a few house rules. Participants, by default, your microphones are muted, but you will have the opportunity to post your questions to the chat box. During panel discussions, the questions will be answered by our panelists during the roundtable at the end of the roundtable discussion. And with that, let me invite Her Excellency, High Commissioner of Sri Lanka to Singapore, Madam Sashikala Premardana, to deliver the opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Nalika. It's with great pleasure that I welcome all those who are joining us virtually for this online workshop on the development of the recreational boating industry in Sri Lanka. I wish to thank the Singapore Boating Industry Association, the Export Development Board of Sri Lanka, the Sri Lanka Singapore Business Council, and the Boat Building Technology Improvement Institute of Sri Lanka, and several other organizations, both in Singapore and Sri Lanka, who have assisted, particularly Nalika, who's been spearheading this, to organize this event. I also want to thank particularly Mr. YP Lok, Chairman of the Singapore Boating Industry Association, who guided our team in the organization of this event. I also acknowledge the support extended by the Secretary of the State Ministry of Boats and Shipping Industry of Sri Lanka and Mr. Udo Kleinitz, Secretary General of the International Council of Marine Industry Association, for their participation despite their busy schedules. I look forward also to hearing valuable input from industry experts who are participating in the panel discussion and also the roundtable discussion. The objective of today's event is to provide exposure on Sri Lanka's capabilities and competitive advantages in the recreational boating industry and opportunities that exist for the development of the marinas in the country. The government of Sri Lanka has laid special emphasis in developing Sri Lanka's potential in these areas and envisages making Sri Lanka a recreational boating hub and a yacht service center in the Indian Ocean region. A separate state ministry has been established, the State Ministry of Boats and Shipping Industry, which is tasked specifically with developing the scope and capabilities of the country in these 2 vital sectors. The aim is to augment Sri Lanka's capabilities and position it as a reputed manufacturer of boats and boating industry products and a popular recreational boating hub and a yacht and marina industry service center. We believe that key opportunities in the boating industry for Sri Lanka lie both in boat manufacturing and in creating links with other sectors so that the requirements of the entire boating value chain can be met. And for this purpose, the government remains committed to mobilizing resources and developing the industry and also monitoring progress, fostering an adequate regulatory environment and creating an enabling framework for the industry to thrive. We also hope to work together with the private sector to support the private sector in developing this industry as well. We believe that such cooperation is essential, not only with the private sector within the country, but also with the global boating industry as a whole, if we are really to achieve any kind of progress and success. Sri Lanka, as you may all be aware, is strategically, geographically located at the crossroads of the main maritime routes in the Indian Ocean. And combined with Sri Lanka's long experience in the boating industry, we believe we can make a difference and become a very attractive maritime hub that provides a full range of services for the industry. Nautical tourism is also an area in which Sri Lanka has some untapped opportunities, particularly for the contributions for the national economy. As you may be aware, Sri Lanka's coasts and sea and weather conditions make the island an excellent charter destination, with the possible expansion of boating and sailing tourism and also marina services expansion. So investments through public-private partnerships to install basic marina facilities will enable marina operators and charter companies to provide the services around the island for visiting yachts and recreational craft. In addition to which, nautical tourism development, we believe, will also spur a variety of allied subsectors. The pandemic has put a severe strain on how most of us have worked, and also on particularly almost all the industries. But we have to face this new normal together. And platforms such as the one we are participating in today, I believe will be extremely useful to bring us together, at least virtually, and to build networks and synergies which can have a significant impact on our growth strategies. Singapore and Sri Lanka celebrated 50 years of diplomatic relations in 2020. However, the friendship between our two countries go back much further than that. We share a warm and abiding friendship that's underpinned by mutual respect and trust, and we shared cultural values and also strong people-to-people linkages. Bilateral trade in goods between Singapore and Sri Lanka was estimated at US dollars 881 million in 2019, with a trade deficit in favor of Singapore. Sri Lanka's main exports to Singapore are mineral oil and fuel and oils, textiles, tea and precious and semi-precious stones, seafood, and also you will be very interested to know boats and vessels as well. Boats and vessels, in fact, contributed significantly to total exports in 2017 and 2018, with 37% and 15% respectively. So this sector is something that's very important for us, and particularly for trade between Singapore and Sri Lanka. Singapore is also at present the 5th largest investment partner for Sri Lanka. And in 2019, the total value of investments from Singapore was approximately US dollars 100 million. So under this time's budget, the 2021 budget in Sri Lanka has certain provisions which are extended for the development of the boating industry, and particularly aimed at access to credit facilities and also tax breaks for possible investments in this area. Furthermore, the Colombo Port City project, there are identified land plots, particularly for marina development, and I'm sure during the workshop, the industry experts from Sri Lanka will provide some additional details on those opportunities for those who are interested in the Colombo Port City project. I'm sure the workshop that we're participating in today will help us not only to look at the opportunities that Sri Lanka presents, but also to identify challenges for the country. And particularly the distinguished panel of experts joining us, as Nalika said, from various countries, not only from Singapore and Sri Lanka, but also from the UK, Hong Kong, and Thailand. I'm sure we'll be able to share their expertise and provide us with a better understanding of the potential that exists, and also assist us in the long run mapping of this sector. Thank you very much to all the industry experts who are joining us, also to the panelists who are joining us today. And I wish the workshop every success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam, for highlighting the key points between the two countries. And now I would like to invite Mr. Y.P. Loh, Chairman of the Singapore Boating Industry Association, to deliver brief remarks.
Thank you, Ms. Nalika. Your Excellency Shashikala Premawardhane, High Commissioner of Sri Lanka to Singapore, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor and privilege for the Singapore Boating Industry Association to work with the Sri Lanka High Commission in Singapore in the co-organizing of this webinar on the development of recreational boating industry in Sri Lanka. Leisure boating is relatively new to many parts of Asia, but it is growing as incomes rise in Asian economies. Boating is also growing worldwide. Despite the pandemic, or perhaps because of it, boat manufacturers around the world are reporting a bumper year. This surge in global demand represents an opportunity for Sri Lanka's boat builders to develop its export potential and for entrepreneurs in the local economy to generate domestic demand. As many countries emerge from COVID-19 lockdown, people yearn to reconnect with the great outdoors and to commune with nature. Boating and nautical tourism deliver on both these fronts. Sri Lanka's natural coastline and strategic location puts it in an ideal location to capitalize on these global trends. When travel resumes, the demand for new and uncrowded destinations, of which there are many in Sri Lanka, will surpass popular cities with jostling crowds. For long-distance blue water sailors and super yachts, Sri Lanka's position between Southeast Asia and Europe makes it an ideal stopover for those flying this route. Sri Lanka's recognition of its potential in leisure marine is not new. In 2014, the ICOMIA Marinas Group met in Colombo at the invitation of the BTI. The development of the recreational marine sector in Sri Lanka bodes well for the whole industry in Asia. We wish you much success in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lord, for enlightening the opportunities and the potential for Sri Lanka. And now our next speaker is Mr. Suresh Dimel, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Export Development Board. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, Your Excellency, Mrs. Shashikala Premawardana, High Commissioner of Sri Lanka to Singapore, Mr. Dhammika Matararachi, Secretary, State Ministry of Warehouse Facilities, Container Yards, Port Facilities, and Boats and Shipping Industry Development, Mr. Y.P. Lok, Chairman, Singapore Boating Industry Association, Mr. Udo Kleinitz, Secretary General, International Council of Marine Industry Associations, Mr. Gamini Herat, Managing Director, Boat Building Technology Improvement Institute, Sri Lanka, members of the Singapore Boating Association and representatives of the Singapore boating industry, panel members, representatives of government institutions, representatives of the boat building industry, ladies and gentlemen. Sri Lanka has a long maritime heritage, having been a destination on the ancient Silk Route. Sri Lanka was considered as a nation that had mastered the science of boat building, as well as known as a maritime hub. Sri Lanka has the advantage of its strategic location, highly trainable workforce, and the labor cost advantage to become a hub for boat manufacturing in the Asian region. The increasing demand for boats worldwide for fishing, industrial, commercial, and leisure purposes open up huge opportunities in the existing and new markets for the boat building industry. The boat building and nautical tourism industry in Sri Lanka is identified as a thrust sector in the national export strategy for exports, offering a wide variety of products and services to international markets. The increasing demand for boats worldwide for these purposes give us a huge opportunity, and also enhancing visibility of Sri Lankan marine industry locally and internationally is one of the key strategic objectives of the national export strategy. EDB organizes local and international events such as the boat show in Sri Lanka, participation at international trade shows, grow boating campaign, B2B meetings, etc., in association with the relevant stakeholders in order to achieve this objective. With the present COVID-19 pandemic, we have to find alternative ways of promoting our products, and initiating this virtual webinar on the development of recreational boating in Sri Lanka by the Sri Lanka High Commission in Singapore in collaboration with relevant stakeholders is timely. EDB, in collaboration with the Sri Lanka missions overseas, have already completed a number of successful virtual B2B meetings with potential buyers in countries such as Sweden, Oman, Jordan, and Korea, and positive business negotiations are going on. EDB has recently submitted a regulatory framework for the boating industry in Sri Lanka, and it has been approved by our Cabinet of Ministers. This forum is a platform to create awareness on the capabilities of the Sri Lankan boat building sector and on new opportunities for the Sri Lankan boating industry. We also hope to attract investors and joint ventures towards the development of infrastructure such as boatyards, docks, slips, and marinas in Sri Lanka. Singapore, as a strategic center for maritime business and as a sought-after tourist destination, no doubt has the expertise on marina development and operations. Singaporean experts who are participating in this webinar will no doubt have much to contribute today, and I wish all the participants a very successful event. I would like to express my sincere thanks to Her Excellency, Mrs. Shashikala Premawardana, our High Commissioner in Singapore, and Mrs. Nalika Kodikara, Councillor Commercial, for their initiative and commitment towards organizing this webinar. Also, Mr. YPO Lok, Chairman, Singapore Boating Industry Association, the lead association in Singapore for the industry, for his commitment in organizing this webinar. The Boat Building Technology Improvement Institute in Sri Lanka and the Singaporean Business Council of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, who joined hands with the EDB and the High Commission to conduct this webinar. Wish you all the best for a successful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Dimal. And we are confident that the EDB, being the apex institution of Sri Lanka for this sector, will take initiatives to take the outcome of this webinar to take forward. And with that, I would like to invite Mr. Gamli Herath, Managing Director of the Sri Lanka Boat Building Technology Improvement Institute, to make the presentation on the overview of the industry.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Nalika. Good morning to all of you, and good afternoon to some of you. Yes, I will be making a brief overview of the Sri Lanka boating industry. And I will share my screen now. And there is a very short presentation. I would like to go through that. Yes, so as we know that the boat and shipbuilding industry in Sri Lanka is a significant industry, and the government of Sri Lanka has identified this industry as a lead industry to be developed in Sri Lanka. With this objective, there had been focus. Now, our focus is to increase export revenue of boat and shipbuilding companies in Sri Lanka, and also to promote Sri Lanka as a boat and shipbuilding hub in South Asia. Also, to promote Sri Lanka as a nautical tourism yachting and boating destination. So these are our main focuses of this webinar as well. When I talk about the industry capability, particularly the export of boats and ships, and we have a range of products which have been indicated here in the slide. So starting from pleasure boats to speed cruisers, luxury sailing and motor yachts, then military and coast guard vessels, you name some of these vessels used for rescue, sea cadet training and all those vessels. Then we have work boats and passenger vessels, houseboats, floating restaurants, pontoons, paddle boats. And also we make certain boat accessories like fishing gear, propellers, life jackets, and also sails. One of the world famous sail making company, the North Sail, is in Sri Lanka. And so their investment has been in Sri Lanka for a long period now. And so they contribute to the sail making and export of sails worldwide. Then also we have a very strong shipbuilding and ship repairing industry. And for years, I think we have made very special ships for the markets worldwide. Then also the fishing boats, which have been our main focus for long years, and also fishing research vessels as well. So these are some of the range of products include in our basket. And when you go to the markets that we have served, I'm putting Singapore in front because we are having very stable business with Singapore with regard to boats and ships exports. Then also the Maldives have been one of our major buyers, the Seychelles, the Madagascar, Mauritius, and also India. India has been buying a lot of vessels from Sri Lanka, particularly the Coast Guard vessels and also some of the passenger crafts. Also, Sri Lankan manufacturers have exported their products, especially the utility boats and also the recreational crafts to Norway, Netherlands, also to UK and Japan. Then we have been, targeting our military boats to Nigeria and Tanzania, and Somalia, mostly the fishing vessels. Then Oman and Bahrain, yes, we have been exporting certain pleasure boats as well as the fishing boats and some of the work boats as well. So these are the markets that we have serving right now. And to your information, I would like to give the companies that are mainly involved in export of boats and ships from Sri Lanka. All these companies are ISO certified, and also GL and Lloyd certifications are there for the products that they make. So the Colombo Dockyard is the shipbuilder, and also they undertake manufacturing military boats as well, using steel and aluminium. Then we have Neil Marine, the pioneer in FRP boats manufacturing. And so their specialties are yachts, utility boats, fishing boats, and pleasure crafts. Then we have the Anusha Marine, upcoming good manufacturer. They also use FRP technology for yachts, fishing boats, and pleasure crafts. Then we have the BAF Polymec Private Limited, which has specialized in sailboats and yachts of different sizes. And they mainly manufacture for individual and charter purposes. Then we have the Solas Marine. They have also specialized mainly in Coast Guard vessels, but also capable of making yachts and also fishing boats and ferry boats as well. Then the GL Yachting Asia Private Limited is particularly strong on sailing catamarans for exports, and they have targeted their exports to Europe as well as to Far East. Then we have some more companies, Northwest Marine, they are specializing in fishing vessels and also pleasure crafts. Then Walker Shipyard, and so they also make certain small crafts using steel and aluminium. And also they are capable of making pleasure crafts using FRP and composites. So the Sri Lanka Navy boatyard, it's a government boatyard. Very recently, they have decided to do business in military, Coast Guard vessels and petrocrafts. So they are very much capable of making these vessels for export purposes as well. Already they have undertaken exports to Nigeria, few military boats. And the next is the Sierra Marine Private Limited. They are also specializing in large fishing vessels and also boat accessories like propellers. Then we have a Ceylani boatyard and they are also fishing vessel manufacturers. Then we have a Norwegian investor here, the Justin Bixun. And the Bixun brand is popular in Norway, and yes, he also makes pleasure crafts, sports fishing vessels, and sports boats. So these are some of the industry capability at the moment. I am not going to give you the figures of exports that they have done, but would like to show some of these pictures of the boats and the vessels that we are capable of manufacturing. So you could see that we have certain luxury yachts and also pleasure boats that we have manufactured, and also certain utility boats, launchers and Coast Guard vessels, etc., and also the fishing vessels. In the category of ships, you could see that we are manufacturing and also manufactured certain ships and also the cable laying vessels. These one of the specialties here in this the recently exported to Japan. And I think now we are into eco-friendly bulk carriers as well. So the first vessel will be manufactured in Sri Lanka. I think already the construction has started, but I feel that it will take some time to deliver the vessel. This is coming from mainly from Europe. So also the country is capable of doing repairs for even super luxury vessels, as indicated. So these are some of the capabilities of the industry at the moment. So I would like to end by giving you a few areas that we are looking for. So we are looking for investment in Sri Lanka by the boat builders and also the accessory manufacturers, particularly in Asia, coming from Asia and EU, and to build popular brands. So JV, joint ventures and direct investment possibilities are there. And we would like to encourage our manufacturers also to get into these investments. Then we would also like to collaborate in small shipbuilding industry, which also exists. There is a market, and we could export tugs, barges, boats, passenger boats, dredgers, work boats, etc. And also not forgetting the eco-friendly vessels. Then we would also like to look at the technology improvement in using FRP, aluminium, and steel-based manufacturing in Sri Lanka. So we would welcome the expert industries to look at the technology improvement part also in Sri Lanka. Finally, we would also like to see buyers, agents, brokers in boats and ships, particularly from Asia and Africa, also catering to EU, to look at our industry and make possible collaborations in marketing particularly the eco-friendly boats and the vessels that we are capable of manufacturing. So I would like to end my short presentation with this note. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and look forward to any queries or clarifications during the panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dramini Herath. Very informative presentation. You projected the Sri Lanka's potential, and also you fight for international buyers and investors. And we would like to take you all through a documentary which compiled by the Export Development Board to get some insightful of the industry.
Sri Lanka's beauty has been known the world over for centuries, winning multiple travel destination accolades in recent times, bringing in millions of tourists annually, and even some guests who refuse to leave. It's got the mountains, the wildlife, the history, the cultural spectacles, and very importantly, the golden beaches. It's island life at its finest, but there are many parts of it yet unexplored in the best way they can be, and each is a world of endless potential. We are talking about the pristine lakes, the exciting rivers, and the turquoise waters of the ocean that surrounds the island. Enter the world of boating. From competitive rowing to kayaking and sailing to cruising, from island to island to even having your own serene boathouse on a picturesque lake. There's an entire lifestyle full of exciting possibilities that awaits you. And more people are taking to the waters for leisure and adventure in Sri Lankan engineered boats. Owning your own boat is the new way to live your life to the fullest, and it's as simple as owning a car. Sri Lanka's boat building industry, which has a rich heritage, is rapidly gaining global attention for its engineering prowess and world-class quality. We have excellent craftsmen, experienced in the art of boat building and servicing, ready to show you the other side of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is rapidly emerging as a favorite destination in the boating world, and it's an unending wave waiting for you to ride it. With more harbors and marinas being developed around the island, the possibilities are endless. Whether you're out with friends or entertaining clients or even creating a special moment. So set sail and start exploring the pearl of the Indian Ocean and beyond like never before.
Hope you would enjoy the documentary, and we are waiting to end this pandemic situation to go back to our nautical tourism enjoyment. So we have completed our first session of today's workshop, and now we are going to start the second segment of which is the first panel discussion. which will be focused on the development of export sector. And let me introduce our moderator today for the first panel session, Mr. Prince Lay. He is the head of shipbuilding marketing at Colombo Dockyard. And Mr. Prince Lay is a marketeer by profession. He holds the Master of Business Administration of the Postgraduate Institute of Management of the Sri Jayewardenepura University of Sri Lanka, and a postgraduate diploma in marketing from the Chartered Institute of Marketing, UK. Mr. Prince has served as a member of the Advisory Committee on Marine and Offshore Engineering appointed by the Export Development Board, and also has served as a subcommittee for the development of berthing facility in Trincomalee Port. So I would like to invite Mr. Prince to take the first panel session begin.
Thank you, Ms. Nalika. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on from where you are joining in. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to this panel discussion. The goal of the next 45 minutes or so will be to examine how the business community can cooperate for the strategic development of the export sector in relation to the recreational boat building industry. So today we have a very distinguished panel of presenters and also a panel of business leaders as panelists. And I appreciate you all being here. So this session will comprise two presentations, one on the government's strategic position in the boating sector in accordance with the National Export Strategy, which will be conducted by Mr. Harsha Padberia, Acting Director of Industrial Export Division, Export Development Board, and the other on Sri Lanka's competitive position in the boating sector and market compliance by our veteran business professional, Mr. Kapila Sumanapala of Neil Marine, who has years of proven experience in export and transforming Sri Lanka's traditional boat building industry into a high-class boat building landscape. So in order to make this presentation and discussion more interactive, more relevant to the topic and lively, we are joined in by some industry experts, namely Mr. David Levin. Mr. David is a past president of British Marine Federation, a past vice president of ICOMIA, and a past member of RIA. Mr. David has over 40 years of experience in the leisure marine industry, mainly in manufacturing of equipment, accessories, and also boat building. He has good knowledge of the global market, having exhibited at most of the world's major shows, boat shows, and has exported products worldwide. Then we have Mr. Peter Jacobs. Mr. Jacobs is from Phuket, Thailand, and he is the Chief Executive Officer of Blue Peter Marine. He's a board member of the Thailand Yachting Business Association, and Blue Peter Marine's work mainly consists of certifying yachts and to provide boat builders the CE approval for their boats to be sold in Europe. And in that, it functions in several ISO committees for boat building and Marina certifications. And Blue Peter Marine is certified by International Marine Certification Institute to do this work. Then we have Mr. Indra Kaushal Rajapaksha. Mr. Rajapaksha is the subcommittee chair of the Sri Lanka Singapore Business Council. He has contributed to the yacht manufacturing industry for the past 12 years and has been instrumental in the development of the yacht chartering industry as the group managing director of the Sail Lanka Yacht Group. So before we kick off this session, let us first establish some ground rules, as Nalika said earlier. As the audience, we are joined in by more than 111 participants. So you can also raise pertinent questions through the chat box. And we will do our best to try and accommodate these questions within the available time frame during the roundtable discussions. Failing which, your questions will be collated by the EDB and replied to you by email on a later date after consulting the relevant expert. So now I would like to begin the session by kindly inviting Mr. Harsha Patberia to make his presentation on the government's strategic position in the boating sector in accordance with the National Export Strategy. Over to you, Mr. Harsha.
Thank you, Prince. Good morning and good afternoon for our partners in Singapore. Your Excellency, distinguished speakers, members of the Singapore Boating Industry Association, and dear participants. I take this opportunity to thank Her Excellency and the staff of Sri Lanka High Commission in Singapore for organizing this webinar. And also on behalf of Sri Lanka Export Development Board, let me extend a warm welcome to you for a workshop on development of recreational boating in Sri Lanka. My presentation will focus on the government strategic position in the boating sector in accordance with the National Export Strategy, which is called the NES. As you're aware, the National Export Strategy is a 5-year export development plan for the period of 2018 to 2022. This was designed and formulated by Sri Lanka Export Development Board with the guidance of the Line Ministry and the comprehensive public and private sector consultations. Also, this project was funded by the EU SME Trade Related Assistance Project, and the International Trade Center, ITC Geneva, has provided the technical assistance. NES was endorsed by the Cabinet of Ministers of Sri Lanka, and it's in implementation since year 2018. Unlocking the emerging export sectors, provide required conditions for existing value-added industries, facilitate SMEs to enter into the export stream, ensure inclusion of regions by connecting all initiatives into production centers, streamline legal and administrative procedures are the government expectation through the NES. NES vision is Sri Lanka to become an export hub driven by innovation and investment. To achieve this, the strategic objective of the NES can consider as to have a business enabling, predictable and transparent policy and regulatory framework that supports exports, strengthen Sri Lankan exporters' market entry and compliance capacities to become an efficient trade and logistical hub to facilitate exports, drive export diversification through innovation, and by strengthening emerging export sectors are the strategic objective of NES. We have 6 NES focus sectors, namely boat building, IT BPM, wellness tourism, electrical and electronic components, processed food and beverages, and the spices and concentrates are the NES focus sectors. When it comes to the boat building, country's strategic location, rapid expansion of tourism industry, potential to nautical tourism, proven expertise in manufacturing quality products, growing interest in boating activities in the country, rapid development in port-related construction, modernization and development of the fisheries industry are the key factors which give the potential to the boating industry in the Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's NES, when it comes to the boat building for the NES, Sri Lanka to become a boat building and maritime tourism hub in the Indian Ocean is the NES vision for the boat building industry. To achieve this goal, 31 activities will be carried out by the 10 implementing agencies. The 3 strategic and operational objectives of the NES for the boat building is could be rated as to create an enabling environment for industry development by the updating regulations and the infrastructure. Number 2, to increase the industry's performances through partnerships and a regulated and a targeted innovation. And the number 3 is to enhance national and international visibility of Sri Lankan marine industry. Development of regulatory framework and development of infrastructure facilities are the 2 actions taken to create an enabling environment for industry development. To raise the industry performance through partnership and targeted innovation, the EDB has established a 17-member advisory committee for the board and shipbuilding industry, representing government and the private sector representative to spearhead the private and public collaboration to identify priority issues and opportunities to improve the performances of this sector. In addition, establishment of a strong industry chamber dedicated for the marine industry is another important activity in this area. EDB, in association with the BTI, initiated work related to this and organized several stakeholder meetings in establishing this chamber. The registration of the chamber is in the pipeline at present. Proposed chamber will be the apex body of the marine industry, which will be responsible for the development of strategic and promotional plans to boost the industry outlook and the business. In addition, EDB assists the industry to solve the issues faced by the industry by lobbying the issues with the other relevant government institutions. To enhance the national and international visibility of Sri Lankan boat building industry, EDB co-organized a boat show Sri Lanka in association with the BTI once in 2 years to showcase the Sri Lankan capabilities. Organizing of inward buyer missions from the potential countries parallel to the show, the boat show, is another key activity EDB is engaged in. Sri Lanka's first ever participation in Geneva Boat Show in Italy in 2019 and Düsseldorf Boat Show in 2020 were organized not only to enhance international visibility of Sri Lankan boat building and marine industry, but to obtain first-hand market intelligence and to establish business contacts with boat and marine industry buyers across the world. Participating companies has received positive response from the visiting buyers of these two shows. The Grow Boating campaign is one of the activity EDB is engaged in at present, and also EDB organized a conference on Sri Lanka, a hub for a marine industry and challenges and opportunities for marine tourism and manufacturing in 2020. In addition, also EDB assisted the industry to develop a promotional video, which you have seen a few minutes ago, under the theme of Grow Boating as a Lifestyle to be used in the industry's future promotional campaigns. Also, no doubt that the development of dedicated website, www.srilankaboating.com, which highlights the industry capabilities, strengths, developments, and investment opportunities will increase the visibility of the sector in the cyberspace. As you are aware, we are not in the position to organize physical promotional programs during the present COVID-19 pandemic situation. EDB organizes the virtual B2B meetings and webinars with the assistance of Sri Lanka missions overseas. So far, we have organized B2B meetings with the potential buyers in Sweden, Oman, Turkey, Jordan, and the boating associations such as Korea Medium Small Shipbuilding Industry Cooperative and Brazil Boating Association to create a new business opportunity for Sri Lankan manufacturers. I'm pleased to inform you that the positive business negotiations are ongoing with the Swedish and Omani buyers, while the others are under negotiations. The last slide shows you the commitment of the government for this sector. The government has identified the sector as a future visionary sector and which can contribute to the increased exports revenue, and also the establishment of dedicated state ministry of warehouse facilities, container yards, port supply facilities, and boats and shipbuilding industry development. Another initiative taken by the government for the betterment of to strengthen the sector. Facilitate coordination between government institutions for better implementation of strategies and solving issues, and NES management unit to monitor the implementation of NES are the other support provided by the government for the betterment of the boat and shipbuilding industry in Sri Lanka. Having said that, I will conclude my presentation, and thank you very much for being with me for my short presentation.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive presentation on the government's strategic position with regards to the boating sector, Mr. Padberia. Thank you very much. I will now like to kindly invite Mr. Kapila Sumanapala to make his presentation on Sri Lanka's competitive position in the boating sector and market compliance. Over to you, Mr. Kapila.
Thank you, Prince. Yes, of course, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're joining in. And as Prince just mentioned, I will now share the screen with my topic of Sri Lanka's competitive position of the boating sector and market compliance. And let me just hide the, yes, it's okay. And I think it's still loading. The slide is not moving. I'll just take a little time. Moving. Yeah, ma'am, Arukashtra. Yeah, okay. There was a small technical issue. Thank you for your patience. Let me take you to the next slide. Yeah, well, Sri Lanka, the resplendent island in the center of Indian Ocean, has a long and proud history of boat building. It has a great advantage to become the hub for boat manufacturing in the Asian region due to its strategic location. You would see that Sri Lanka's the location, as the previous presenters mentioned, we are in a very strategic location where the connectivity sea route from east to far east to west is via Sri Lankan economic zone. And we are in a distinct advantage in exploring all these opportunities when it comes to boating and the other activity. So there are, as you see from the bottom of the slide, there are 30,000 ships and yachts pass by 30 nautical miles from south of Sri Lanka, out of which 2,000 high-end yachts. Well, these details are, I think, given in the previous slides as well. But let me just emphasize on the fact that the economic zone of 550,000 square kilometers, which is about 8.5 times the island land mass, which Sri Lanka is owning, is something that we can be very, very positive of, and we have enormous opportunity that we can explore when it comes to the economic zone that we are enjoying. So the history of boat building in Sri Lanka, the history of boat building goes back 60 years, where the very first fiberglass boat was introduced from the traditional wooden crafts, and industry has today grown very strong compared to some other neighboring countries. Sri Lanka has one of the best natural harbors in the Asian region, and its commercial port, Colombo, is rated among the most economical and efficient, which offers a complete service to shippers. And this is just a little away from the boat building, but I'm just trying to emphasize on the fact that these type of facilities would definitely a welcome thing for the Sri Lanka to have better explore better opportunities. The ports and fisheries harbors in Sri Lanka. Right now, Sri Lanka is developing a few marinas, but among other than that, in the entire country, as you know, it's an island nation. We have several ports and harbors. So we are in the process of developing such things to accommodate this boating, promote boating in Sri Lanka. So these are little details about the existing harbors and etc. I won't take much time on that. And with the dawn of peace in Sri Lanka, as you know, Sri Lanka had a 30-year drawn war, which hampered a lot of development activity. But in 2009, we ended the war, and then we are on a definite program to develop all these activity. So boating is taking a major turn in that sense. And boom in the tourism industry is opening up a new frontier of leisure and pleasure crafts. The increased interest of local community in the boating activities has created additional market opportunities. So this is where we want to really target, because the boating as a activity in Sri Lanka didn't pick up due to the bureaucratic controls as a result of the war. And now things are easing, and it would open up into a very better future. The country's leisure sector growth records growth, where whale watching and other leisure activities such as water rafting, scuba diving, snorkeling, canoeing, sailing, windsurfing, and many more have a positive impact on the boating industry. These are just a few pictures of what we do with regard to the whale watching and etc., rafting and sailing. Well, I need a little time to mention about this blue whale spotting in Sri Lanka. Within distance of about 5 to 6 nautical miles, you could spot blue whales in Sri Lankan coastal waters, and that's a rare sight, because, as you know, blue whale is the biggest mammal on Earth today, and most of the other destinations wouldn't have this luxury of spotting these blue whales. So it had created a lot of interest amongst tourists. Yeah, since 2008, Sri Lanka has been having boat shows, as the EDB presentation mentioned. So we were able to attract many customers through these boat shows and showcase our products, and made known to the rest of the world that Sri Lanka could meet up any standard. Then when it comes to national export strategy, that again the previous presenter mentioned, but I have just outlined few things. And the export map of Sri Lanka. And in vessels, types of vessels and ships, what we build here in Sri Lanka, it's given here. And well, these products, some of the products that I've shown some pictures, these classic sailing yachts, which is another attraction, because we maintain the classic look of these products. You know, some of the very, very reputed brands, you know, they want, as in the case of the old crops or vintage cars, etc. The classic look of, you know, certain sailing yachts, you know, people still love it, and we are able to meet up those standards with a little bit of newer and the latest equipment going into it, but maintaining the classic look. So these yachts and pleasure boats, again, very, very exported to many parts of the world. And we have totally enclosed lifeboats, hyperbaric with hyperbaric chambers going into motherships, and the oil rigs, which is also been exported through collaborations that we've got from very much reputed the lifeboat manufacturers. And the fishing boats going to most of the African countries, the long line fishing vessels. Then speedboats, the sailing catamarans, the motor catamarans, etc., very popular, gaining a lot of interest amongst the boat lovers. So these floating restaurants, you know, some of the star class hotels are purchasing these now, after especially the waterways became quite free, and this attracts a lot of diners, and then we were able to attract a lot on this. And Sri Lanka's position of boating sector, the boating industry has now transformed from traditional boat manufacturing into a high-class boat manufacturing industry. And the four main sectors, namely pleasure boats, commercial boats, and ship sector, including ship repairs, fishing boat sector, and military vessels. The products and services offered belong to a wide range from boats of different types and related but specialized services as well. So I don't want to take much time in going into this, but it's about the government's approach towards the boat building, developing of boat building industry. So this is what they are actually supportive, very supportive of the industry. So we are very much encouraged to really go in for more and more specialized services in this regard. So the marinas, we have just touched upon, but I just mentioned because these are the attractions into these boat building industry. So I don't want to take much time in that. These are the aerial view of the marina development happening in Colombo, Sri Lanka. And we have another marina in Galle that is in south of Sri Lanka that had been a very popular trade vessels, the anchoring and the trade activity was happening in that part long years ago, and still it's been happening. And then today the development of marina is taking place. Some kind of development is happening in this port as well. This is a picture there. Well, our manufacturing conforms to all the classification society requirements, and we have specialized manufacturing methods, and then all these the high-tech systems have been brought into the manufacturing processes. So will gel coat spraying for the optimized and required microns of thicknesses of the pigments and gel coat going into the vessels. Then resin infusion, vacuum bagging, manufacturing is done under control conditions, because Sri Lanka is a tropical country, as you know, because due to high the humidity factor, the classification society's specification is to bring the humidity below 58%, which is happening, and under those conditions only most of the production is happening. So specialized carpentry is one of the attractions, because we have traditional carpenters who had been into these carvings and etc. long years ago. They are the people who are really taking on the carpentry for us, and that had been a main attraction because a lot of handwork is going into this carpentry. And we have had the opportunities of working with a lot of foreign naval architects to customize to their requirements. So because specific designs are required by specific destinations, so we are very much flexible in meeting up all these requirements. We most welcome any kind of partnerships, joint ventures, joint collaborations, or even to explore possibilities of getting benefits of the FTAs that we have in going forward. Thank you very much for your patience. I know we hope that it would give you some indication of where we stand as far as the boat building is concerned in Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very informative presentation emphasizing the hidden potential of the Sri Lanka's boat building sector, Mr. Kapila. Thank you very much for that presentation. I'm quite confident that these two presentations have brought about the status quo of the industry at present in Sri Lanka to the information of the audience and the panelists. So now we will move into the panel discussion. And one of the objectives of a forum like this is to identify the barriers and roadblocks that require to be removed to enable and promote trade between countries and to enhance the export capabilities of Sri Lanka. In this respect, I would like to pose a few questions to our distinguished panel. And I would like to pose this question to Mr. David Lovin. Mr. David, Sri Lankan government under its national export strategy has identified boat building as a focus sector for export diversification. As a person who has immense experience and knowledge of the leisure marine industry, how do you view the opportunities and growth potential of this recreational boating sector in Europe and in other tourism hotspots? Mr. David?
Well, thank you. And yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. And thank you so much for inviting me. It's very special to be part of this. It's been very interesting listening to all the presentations, and you certainly have the basis for a fantastic recreational boating industry. I don't know why I go boating in the English Channel anymore when I see your beautiful seas. And I think when we were talking about this to start off with, you said you had 365 days of sunshine on one side of the island or the other. You had warm winds and beautiful beaches. Well, what else? So that's a great start. However, I think the first thing that I wanted to say is that there's no silver bullet to any of this. There's no one thing that's going to make your industry hugely successful in export or anything else. It's a broad approach. The buzzword these days is sustainability. And I think that's what's important. Simply building marinas and putting boats in it, or building boats and thinking you're going to export them, isn't going to happen. The market needs to be developed on a much broader front, and it also, I know we're talking about export, but I think the domestic scene needs to be developed as well. It's a culture of boating that's taken time to develop in other countries. Boating as a leisure activity, as a culture even. And that, as we've heard already this morning, boating is good for the soul. It's good for being out in the open. It's good in these days of the staycation, or whatever we want to call it. The boat industry is booming. Where I'm living, we can't build boats fast enough. But it's a culture that that needs to be developed through the country. So before I think you can do any exporting at all in any meaningful, or should I say, that's not true, any bringing in of investment, I think any companies wanting to come and invest, inward investment, will want to see a domestic market being developed as well. So having said that, and having spoken about that, there is great potential, I'm sure. The position of Sri Lanka and the world trade routes, and being absolutely in between Europe, Africa, wherever it is, and the Far East and Australia, has huge potential. And yes, possibly with low cost, but low cost is not the ultimate aim. High quality has to be the ultimate aim. And to think that you can just build cheap boats will never make it when it comes to exporting. High quality, if they happen to be good value, that's even better. But the quality is the first and most important thing. So yes, how do we move forward on this? Well, I would suggest that from what we've seen this morning, you've been doing a pretty good job in developing the boat building side. But I mean, if you want to export, you need to be making boats that are suitable, obviously, for those different markets, and perhaps designed in those markets. So it might be that you need to have inward investment of partnerships. You can either do that you can either design boats on your own, or you can find somebody to come and help you do that. From my experience, it always takes a long time to develop and work up a series boat from the bottom up. All that design work, all that CAD drawing, all that work takes a long time. And if you can find a boat from a boat builder who's already doing the marketing, who's already has an outlet and agencies all around the world, that has to be a good thing. And I would suggest that would be the first thing I would set up, partnerships with companies that will have a ready outlet for those boats, so that you can start building series production boats. Is that a good start, or where should we take it from there, Mr. Prince?
Yes, I think it's a good start. We will focus on that. And I think, like you mentioned, there's great potential in the boat building sector, especially in Europe, Africa, Far East, and Australia, where we should definitely focus and do our marketing properly. So thank you, Mr. David. I will come back to you again. Let's go to Mr. Peter Jacobs. I know your specialty is in the certification of yachts and providing CE approvals for boats that you build, boats that other shipyards build. What standard of skill levels, capacities of building building facilities, manufacturing processes, technology would you look at if you are to qualify a Sri Lankan boat builder and their products to the world market? Mr. Peter?
Thank you, Mr. Prince. Mr. Levin's already taken a bit the words out of my mouth. I think the capabilities are there. I have been certifying boats in Sri Lanka for the last over 20 years, starting with Mencken Maritime, with Mr. Vixen, lately with Buff Polymec, GLY. And so they succeed to comply with international standards. But that's what Mr. Lewin said. The new way is the sustainability. Sustainability is the future. That's what we have to look at. And it means more than just putting an electric motor. I mean, too many boat builders call their boat eco because they put an electric motor, therefore it's eco. No, it's not. It's a total package that has to be investigated. You have to look at the whole production. You have to look at the recycling, working with infusion, with new bioresins, using flax, using HDPE and other eco-friendly boating materials. And that's somewhere Sri Lanka can jump on the train now because it started and there's no reason you couldn't get on that train. You need to make sure you have a proper skill transfer. I know you have a boat building school, but these are new materials that even for the Western world are quite developing products. So you need to make sure you have that skills transfer. You need to make sure work permits, visas, and so for people coming to transfer these skills are available. I would really highlight on that. Then your ecotourism, you're already building these mini cruise boats. I think we've seen it's the future because the cruising industry is, as we know, not doing so well at the moment, but there is a strong demand for those mini cruise boats. So you have a beautiful country. You have to invite the people to your place to experience your boat in their own environment. And that's what will create more jobs and learn to build them in a sustainable way.
Thank you, Mr. Peter. I think that brought us a bit, in new information about, using sustainable material and items in our production. So that I'm sure our shipboat builders who are joining us today will take note and try to, convert our construction facilities accordingly. So I will now move on to Mr. Indra Kaushal Rajapaksa. Mr. Rajapaksa, as a game changer in the global yachting industry and Sri Lanka's tourism sector, involved in boat building, boat chartering and development of infrastructures such as mini marinas, how do you view the development of the Port City Marina and Gold City Marinas? Don't you think that once these develop, there will be an immense potential and demand for leisure boats locally?
Thank you, Prince. Ibon, to everybody present for this webinar. First of all, let me thank the High Commissioner of Singapore, Boat Association of Singapore, EDB, BTI, for partnering with the Sri Lanka Singapore Business Council to hold this webinar. Yes, Prince, actually, it will be a great benefit for the industry. Even now, we are involved as a company, Beth Polymac, Sri Lanka Yachting Group. We are involved in the Port City Marina operation. We are operating already our cruisers from Port City. At the same time, we must thank the government for looking very positively towards building up the boat industry, because the government have established a separate industry, a ministry for the industry. So they are very particularly concerned about the development of the industry. Also EDB. So now I must tell you a little bit on this, the development that is taking place already. We have an industry, yacht manufacturing, boat manufacturing, which is, I would say, it had come a long way. And some companies like us, we have our own design centers where we keep on developing yachts to suit the customer requirement, and also chartering. By chartering locally, we have understood, identified the improvements that we have to make. So by which we are satisfying the local customers. Because of the pandemic, the foreigners, the tourists are unable to make it to Sri Lanka. So, but we are getting ready. Not only our company, all the other companies, they are getting ready slowly by developing their products. At the same time, with the development of the Port City Marina and all, and in addition to that, we are very thankful for the government for considering the release and development of the fisheries harbors, part of them as mini marinas. So I think these are long-term plan with in the government, which we are already occupying. Mirissa, we are the first to start the mini marina in Mirissa and Beruala. Now Mirissa is doing well. We are as a company, we are the company who started the whale watching. Now there are 60 whale watching companies in Mirissa. So there are a lot of improvements and development that is taking place. So I think with all the presentation that have been done by all the presenters, you all would have understood the potential that we have as a country in this industry. So surely, Mr. Prince, it will be a great benefit to the industry with this positive look approach by the government for developing both Galle Marina and the Port City Marina, and of course the fisheries harbors as mini marinas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rajapaksha. We only hope and pray that this pandemic goes away soon, so that we'll all experience greener pastures in the future.
Thank you.
So I'll come back to Mr. David Levin again. It is true that Sri Lankan boat industry gets the support of our missions abroad, then the EDB, various chambers in Sri Lanka through their matchmaking programs. Other than that, is there any way you could assist, Mr. David, any way you could assist for the Sri Lankan exporters, boat builders, equipment and accessory manufacturers to connect with business partners who can, either outsource their manufacturing facilities to Sri Lanka or to create some joint venture in Sri Lanka?
Well, I do believe that government can help. Government can certainly smooth the way. Government can make it easy for companies to work together. But in the end, it's the private sector that probably has to pay the money. It's the private sector that has to invest. It's the private sector who pays the bills in the end. And so it's the private sector that you have to find. And although the government, I think, and EDB and all the other things can help smooth the way and make introductions, it's feet on the ground, it's people you know, it's people who you can call that will make a difference to the people you'll be able to find. I happen to be part of a group called the Global Marine Business Advisors. And in fact, there are 3 of us on this panel today, Mr. Y.P. Loke, Mr. Oscar Sitches and myself. and we're part of a group of 17, I wouldn't say old, but certainly well briefed, with lots of experience in the marine industry. We're 17 of us in 17 different countries all over the world. And one of the things that we do is we put people together. We've all been in top jobs in the industry. I've been in the industry for about 40 years. And so there's probably nobody we don't know or we don't know that doesn't know somebody along there that we might be able to find. So yes, there are things. Okay, I'm blowing my own trumpet a little bit here, bit of an advertisement for us, but nevertheless, I'm sure that given the right opportunities that we could do, that GMBA or Global Marine Business Advisors could probably help in some way. But I think I want to say that the Sri Lanka needs to move forward on a broad front. It needs to move forward on everything from developing everything from stand-up paddle boards to large yachts. It needs to increase its culture. Nobody is going to come and invest in an industry that is only interested in building marinas and just hoping that people are going to come along. They will want to see the whole of the culture of boating being supported. I mean, I remember in China, they thought all you had to do was build large marinas and put some sunseekers and princesses in them, and that would change everything. Well, it was a failure. You need to take everything forward. You need people to aspire to wanting to boat. And okay, this may not be slightly on topic at the moment, what we're talking about, but I would like to see Sri Lanka absolutely showing even down to the education, whether sailing is part of the school curriculum, that clubs are developed to bring forward the culture of boating, because it's only through that culture of leisure boating and taking part and enjoying the sea and enjoying everything else that the culture will build up, and then there will be a market, internal and external. But sorry, to get back to the point, yes, I'm sure we could help you in some way or another.
Thank you, Mr. David. I'm sure with the government's relaxation of various regulatory requirements, I'm sure Mr. David and others can assist us in this endeavor. Then I'll get back to Mr. Peter Jacobs. Mr. Peter, when a Sri Lankan boat builder tries to export boats or accessories from Sri Lanka, what type of regulatory requirements, standards have they got to follow? Because I remember during a previous interaction with you, you mentioned that it is important for Sri Lanka to grow its own industry, whereby there will be a great demand locally. Do you think you can elaborate on this a little more?
Yes. I must emphasize that I work on, I certify yachts up to 24 meters. Above 24 meters, we're talking about classification, DNV, BV, and all what has been mentioned before. Below 24 meters, there is no classification involved. Or there could be, but as a notified body, just as we are at the International Marine Certification Institute. So for export, there are mainly two sets of rules worldwide. The two major ones, I would say, one is the ABYC rules, which are used for, which are voluntary rules, which are used in the USA by the National Marine Manufacturer Association. And then if Mrs. Mangala can show us the slide I've been sending you.
Ms. Mangala, can you show the slide?
Yes, so in the rest of the world, yes, in the rest of the world, mainly all the colored countries you see there, including the USA again, these are the ISO standards. Now, let's not get confused with ISO 9000, please. This has absolutely nothing to do with ISO 9000, which is a quality system. I'm talking about the ISO standard for small crafts. There are about 66 standards going from electrical system, fuel system, stability, toilet retention system, and so on and so on. All these countries you see on these maps are participating or observing. Unfortunately, the small tip at the end of India, Sri Lanka is not colored, and I would really hope that would change in the future. Because if you want to have a voice in this world, if you want to be able to interact and eventually change those standards, you have to be part of this ISO committee. Thank you, Ms. Mangala. So if you want to export to Europe, you have to comply with the ISO standard or a different method, but to keep it simple, yes, you need to, you urge to comply with the ISO standards. And for the rest of the world, as you could see on the map, they mainly take off those ISO standards. For example, in Singapore, I know they're using as well, accepting the ISO standard. So that's really the one you need to use for your boat building, to learn in the schools, and to be familiar with. On your question on how to grow the industry, I think it's important to work on the Asian corridor. I mentioned that time and time again, the Asian corridor starting in Suez, going all the way to Australia. We have to facilitate cruises, super yachts, and all the yachts passing by to have an easy transfer from country to country. And if you're a cruiser and the regulations are too different from one country to the other, it becomes a bureaucratic nightmare to go cruising. So it's really important that all the Asian countries work together to create that Asian corridor. And yeah, it's important that your own water sport development is being used at its maximum. I mean, I wouldn't go in a restaurant where the cook doesn't eat from his own kitchen. And the same is applicable for Sri Lanka. If I see your people sailing, if I see you participating in international regattas and so, I start getting confidence in the country because I think, wow, those guys know what they're doing. So, you know, that would be my recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Peter, for your frank opinion on that. Moving on, can we have Mr. Rajapaksha's opinion on this? As a local business professional, what is your opinion on the best way forward for Sri Lanka to become a regional export hub driven by innovation and investment, and also to attract foreign investment to the country to spur economic growth?
Yes, Prince. That's a good question. One thing is we got to have a model developed to attract the investors. I would suggest a model like the financial city, the port city, which is offering many incentives. I think this is something, a model that we could follow for the export industry, development of marinas and infrastructure, right? This will be really an encouraging move for the leisure sector, yacht manufacturing for exports. And the other thing is, I really appreciate what Peter said. We all have gone into technology, advancement of technology. And we, as a company, we have our own training center. We train our people, the staff, everybody. And we are setting up a training center and a manufacturing center in the northern part of the country. We already have our operations in the south. So we are trying to give the opportunity for the boys of north to get trained. Now we are already training 10 boys in our factory in south. Likewise, there will be many more opportunities in training. So this is where we need the expertise to come in. right? So we combined with investment, infrastructure development, you are set to do the exports for buyers. So having technology, having the proper training and the investment. So this is what we want to tell the world, that Sri Lanka have become, Sri Lanka have a success story, and that is becoming the world largest solid tire manufacturer in the world, 30 to 40% of the local demand, where my chairman, who is present here, he will talk a little bit, I hope he will talk. He's the one who created that industry for the whole of Sri Lanka. So now we are in a position to say that we are becoming the industry of technology in yacht manufacturing, yacht chartering. So this is where we want to invite all the investors, interested parties. It's the future. Sri Lanka is the future. Thank you, Mr. Prince.
Thank you, Mr. Rajapaksa. I think the government is in the right direction, and also with the EDB setting the boat building sector as the primary sector or focus sector, I think we are in for a good time in the future.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you.
So in order to make the presence felt in the world market, it is important to showcase our products at international boat shows and events. So Mr. David and Mr. Peter, as industry specialists and world-class professionals in this industry, could you recommend which boat shows and events to target?
Well, I think time is short, so I will just say that you've made a good start. The world's major boat show, I'm sure, it must be Düsseldorf. I would say that is, if you want to see a boat, that's the place to go. I think you went to Genoa. I think that's very interesting. It has a different slant, a different look to Düsseldorf. But if I was going to choose one big show to make an effort for, I think it would be Düsseldorf. But then don't forget the equipment show, the world's largest and most important marine equipment show. No boats, but equipment. The Marine Equipment Trade Show in Amsterdam in November. The entire industry meets there. Remember, the boating industry is not just about building boats. It's about equipment. It's about all sorts of other things, services, whatever. The Marine Equipment Trade Show, or METS, it's called METS Trade to give it its full name, is an essential one in Amsterdam. And then, of course, you must think about the United States. The United States is split into lots of areas and also into different types of boats. So you would need to decide whether you were going to do Annapolis or Miami or Fort Lauderdale, but that would depend on the type of boats that you wanted to do. Yeah, there are plenty of boat shows out there, but I would start with Düsseldorf and Metz probably as the start.
Mr. Peter, do you have any idea?
No, I concur again, as always, with Mr.
Okay.
I think Düsseldorf is the main one. And then I always like to go to the very, very small boat show, because it gives you a lot more time to talk. And because Sri Lanka is not yet that much on the chart, it's good to have time to talk with the customer, better than going to a huge boat show where they pass by and go to the next super yacht. So I would emphasize small boat shows.
Yeah, but that's the point of making sure that you make the connections beforehand. The work for doing a boat show is not standing at the boat show. The work is done in making the connections beforehand, so they come to see you at the boat show. Because as you say, Peter, absolutely correctly, if you just stand there, the world walks past you and says, "Oh, very nice, thank you very much," and moves on. You need to make those connections beforehand.
Okay, David, Peter, thank you for your idea. I think that will be food for thought for our boat builders in their next marketing endeavor. So anyway, I have to mention that Sri Lanka has all the prerequisites to be a hub in the Indian Ocean. being close to situated in close proximity to all these tourist hotspots like the Maldives, Seychelles, Madagascar, Dubai, Singapore, Thailand. The premier shipbuilding and ship repairing yard in Sri Lanka, Colombo Dockyard, is immensely experienced in attending to these repairs and maintenance of super luxury yachts. The super luxury yacht named Laurel is a regular caller to Colombo Dockyard. And we have carried out yacht finish coating and regular class surveys many times. Even at present, Colombo Dockyard is carrying out float repairs to a super luxury yacht, which suffered propeller shaft damages. So Colombo has the reputation of handling repairs and maintenance of super luxury yachts very comfortably. So I wish to place this information before Mr. David and Mr. Peter so that you can consider recommending facilities that is available in Colombo to your clientele to enable stimulate growth of high technology export services from Sri Lanka to the world. Mr. David, Mr. Peter, please take note of this facility. So I think the time we have run out of time. I think we need to finish it now. Can I request Nalika to take over now?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Prince, for moderating for this first panel session, putting all valuable inputs from our speakers, presenters, and distinguished panelists. And it was a very thoughtful session, and there are many more to take forward. And now we will move on to our next panel discussion. I would like to introduce our moderator, Mr. Y.P. Lott, Chairman of the Boat Industry Association of Singapore. Mr. Lott is a naval architect by training and runs a Marina consultancy business. He's a member of the ICOMIA Marina Group and its vice president of ICOMIA. He is an honorary member of the Asia Pacific Super Yacht Association. So with this experience, I think we will have another session. Mr. YP, over to you to take this next session forward.
Thank you, Nalika. Welcome everyone to this second session where we talk about the development of the domestic sector. So we're talking about nautical tourism in Sri Lanka. We're talking about infrastructure development as an example. We have three presenters before the panel session. The first presentation is by Mr. Mataharachi from the Secretary of the State Ministry of Boats and Shipping Industry Development. He has been a senior civil servant for 27 over years in various ministries. I'm quite conscious that we are actually about 20-25 minutes behind time. So actually I would ask all the speakers to keep their presentations as concise as possible. So over to you, Mr. Mataharachi, for the first presentation.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Can you hear me, or can you see the presentation? Okay. Is it okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes,
we can.
Okay, thank you. My ministry is State Ministry of Warehouse Facilities, Container Yards, Port Supply Facilities, and Boats and Shipping Industry Development. So basically, two areas to cover. One is logistic industry and other one is boat and shipping industry. So this is our vision of this ministry. This is a recently established ministry, the sustainable marine economy towards prosperity. And there are two mission statements. This is relevant to the boat and shipping industry, the development of boat and shipping industry as a renowned industry with allied services. When you consider this marine traffic map, when you go through this one, Sri Lanka, when you go through this map, the Sri Lanka is a center point of the map. And obvious, Colombo is the hub port. By using all these, what you call facilities, naturally it is a hub port, and Colombo is a hub area. Also, Sri Lanka also a hub. Now, when you come to the strengths of our sector, now my presentation is completely focused on the topic, that means recreational boating area. Now, first one is favorable government policy on the nautical tourism. Recently, government has published our responsibilities, that all policies are full favorable for the nautical tourism. With the last budget speech, Honorable Finance Minister given a lot of tax releases and a lot of waivers for the sector. Therefore, there is no question about the policy matters. Then Sri Lanka is year-round tourist destination. So full year, whole year is good for the tourism. 1,400 kilometers of coastal belt around the country with high security. So now security is confirmed around the country. Therefore, it is very, very nicely travel anywhere of the country. Year-round pleasant weather is there. So availability of anchoring facilities island-wide. Yacht operations are already established with safety. Availability of 5-star hotels, seafood restaurants around the country. These are some kind of strengths for the sector. Availability of berthing facilities at Galle Port, Trincomalee Port and Kankasantri ports for yacht operations. So there are no marinas, but big marinas, but there are facilities. So then availability of whale watching at southern area, eastern area and western coast. Availability of shark watching at Kalpitiya Sea area. Windsurfing of at Arugambe area. Availability of coral reefs around the country is some kind of facility strengths for the nautical tourism sector. Some weaknesses are there, I have identified. Non-availability of full-fledged marinas. This is a weakness. So we need this kind of marinas around the country. The lack of investments in the infrastructure development for marinas and delays in implementation of legislative changes. So now it's ongoing. Therefore, it is not a problem now. Legislative process is started with support of the Export Development Board. They have done some kind of legislations. They have handed over to the Ministry of Ports and Shipping and our ministry. Now it is on the way. Therefore, it is not a problem. Opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities in the sector. Potentials to develop fully fledged marinas at 3 ports. That means Galle, Trincomalee, even in KKS. Now under rehabilitation, this KKS port. Therefore, there are 3 ports to develop. Start joint venture business with local parties. There is opportunity. Learning of sailing vessels. Sorry, leasing of sailing vessels. So that is also another opportunity. So we have our own companies here for the sailing vessels, but leasing facility also there. So other investors can lease their yachts here. Keeping and maintaining sailing vessels. Organizing coastal festivals, organizing yachting competitions. This kind of things are opportunities. We can organize lot of things in this country with the situation change, with the pandemic situation. Pandemic situation is the worldwide threat for nowadays, but we hope that it will be good in near future. These are some kind of development strategies in our ministry. So basically, we identified that we need a master plan for sector developments. Therefore, we are now discussing and we have basics. We are preparing for the master plan. Infrastructure facility development is necessary. So for the nautical tourism or yacht marinas, we need high-level infrastructure. So that is we have identified for our strategies. Implementation of regulatory framework is ongoing now, and research and development of the sector is must. Then promotion and global branding also needed, and sector capacity development also. That's why our ministry established here to do this kind of developments. Then development programs, special industrial zone for boat building. Now we have after establishing this ministry, we have identified. So there are a lot of boat building industries island-wide, but there is no special industrial zone for the boat building. Therefore, our Honorable Minister advised us to find out the place, and we already discussed these things with the government agents, and we have identified good place close to the Velipatangwila yard. It's called Lunama. And then boat repair facilities. This is very, very important in the sector developments. Boat launching facility development. So boat launching facilities are big problem in here. Therefore, now we have identified a lot of areas close to the or within the fisheries harbors. So already started in Beruala. Then promotion of boating in activities, nautical tourism. That is also one development program under our ministry. Establishment of boat regulatory mechanism also, it's a part of this ministry. Then business promotion also, in future we are going to touch in that area also. So when you consider the country, there are two monsoon seasons. One is southern region, this is November to April. Eastern region, they May to October. So when you use yachts in southern area, you can shift in other region in other monsoon, that means May to October. So there are two areas to work. When you consider the Trincomalee port, this is Trincomalee port, you can see the main jetty here, we call it jetty. So we can use both sides of the jetty for the yacht operations there. So you can see some yachts are moving here and there. Therefore, Trincomalee port is one opportunity for the investors in yacht operation and yacht marina also. This is Gold Port. You can see the jetty here, and a lot of yachts are just parking here. So it is established place, but we have to develop more facilities, and we are now ready with the RFP, request for proposals, for the investors for the yacht marina. Near future, we are going to once again advertise that one. This is Hambantota port. So already you can see the big cruise is there, passenger cruise. Cruise vessels are now coming to Hambantota port. This is also a good area for the investments. When you come to the Kankasantore port, recently we have started the rehabilitation of this breakwater, and we are going to construct 2 new piers. Pier number 3 is latest one, and now consultants are ongoing their studies, and September we are going to start the construction. So this area also we can use as a yacht operations, and even boat building also. My presentation is that much. That's all. This is short. You can ask any question about these things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Madharaji. Thank you for keeping it quick and concise. I will now ask Mr. Gamini Herath to talk about marina development opportunities and potential JVs in Sri Lanka. Mr. Herath is the Managing Director of the Boat Building Technology Improvement Institute in Sri Lanka. Over to you, Gamini.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, YP, and I'm delighted to make this presentation with regard to the opportunities in the marina development in Sri Lanka. And I have a brief presentation also. Let me share my screen with this. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So the first thing is that when we look at Sri Lanka in 2030, this is our vision. We are talking about 12 marinas in Sri Lanka in 2030. Very ambitious figure. And what we are aiming at is a network of maybe 1,200 berths around the island. Maybe 100 berths in one marina or more. And also we are envisaging 8 million tourist arrivals. And with this, about 4.4 million or 4 billion US dollar revenue. So in this endeavor, we also look at a market potential for 4,000 to 5,000 boats in time to come. So this is the real the aim of our projections, and so hopefully by 2030 we will be able to achieve this. So look at the now situation. The opportunities location wise. Now we are talking about maritime hub and a lot of vessels passing the route, and we are in the center of this maritime the lanes and all those things. But with regard to the yachters, today the most popular destinations around Indian Ocean and maybe in South Asia is not Sri Lanka, not at the moment. So mainly the Maldives and Andaman Islands in India. And if you take the Far East, we know that Phuket, Thailand is one of the major destinations. But 12 years ago, it was not so. But now they have developed into that. And also Indonesia is getting popular. So what we see that we don't have proper marinas at the moment, and also the incentives for the yachters to be in our waters. So what's going on really at the moment with regard to marinas in Sri Lanka? So many speakers have reiterated that we are having this Colombo Port City Marina. And we know that it is the breakwater has been completed, and we are hoping that we could develop this into 200 berth with proper investment, and maybe the boat clubhouse, utilities, service infrastructure, among others. So currently, this facility is used by one of our chartering companies, and they have leased this area, and at the moment, there are some business taking place in this area. The second marina is planned in Maravilla, that is the west coast of island, by a resident German entrepreneur. being kickstarted with the involvement of a Maldivian partnership. So hopefully, if this comes around, there will be about 100 berths in the west coast of Sri Lanka for yachters and also the recreational boaters to use. Then the third marina kind of a facility that we are looking at is in the Waligama area in the southern coast, which I have shown in the map. This is close to Mirissa, where is the whale watching taking place, and it's in the world map. It's recorded on the world map. So Waligama is a very promising place, and already with the assistance from the Sri Lanka Export Development Board, a feasibility study has been completed for the building of or construction of the breakwater, and we are awaiting the environmental impact assessment study to start the construction. So hopefully this will be available for activities by 2024. This is an opportunity at the moment. And we are also looking at investors to look at this location positively. Then many have talked about this mini marina at Port of Galle. Yeah, so the construction of the basic structure has been completed. I think we could berth about 25 vessels up to 15 meters there. And as mentioned earlier, the tenders have been called for rest of the infrastructure development. The important thing here is that many yachters know this destination, and very often they use this mainly for emergency services and repairs at the moment. So this could be easily developed into a good yachting destination in the country. Then, so we are also talking about this Trincomalee Natural Harbour. So at the moment, the local chartering company and Sri Lanka Navy is using this area for nautical tourism and also for recreational boating. So this is this particular location has an opportunity. It's you can have unique experience in recreational and nautical tourism. I think Kapila at the outset mentioned about blue whales. I think this is an location where you could find blue whales just beyond the harbor. I mean, it's not that far from harbor, so you will see the blue whales, roaming. So that is an opportunity, but we need more facilities for the recreational boating and also for nautical tourism to be developed in this area. So there is opportunity for investors to look at this the natural harbor for particular investment in this field. Then another location that we are talking about is in the southern coast. This is a very promising location for a marina with full facilities, and this is adjoining the fisheries harbor in the Beruala, where we could easily accommodate about 100 yachts, and also this could be a yacht building facility for export as well, because the launching is very easy. This particular fisheries harbor has been used at the ancient time for trading between the neighboring countries in Sri Lanka. So this is kind of a popular place, and people know about this, but we need a good investment in this area. So the Beruala has a lot of promising promises for the marina development. Then I'm just giving you the locations where the marinas could be developed in Sri Lanka, and we'll see what else that we could make use of. Then we have this Jaffna and Mana, the northern coast. And I think Mr. Matarachi very correctly said something about KKS, that is Kankesan Ture port being rehabilitated and developed. So that's one location for a marina and also marina facilities. The important thing here is that there are 22 islands around this area offering unique experience in boating. It's a wide, now you could also have a wide spectrum of sea land investment opportunities for hotels, restaurants, clubhouses, and attracting local and foreign visitors. Now, we have some very good religious places here where a lot of Sri Lankans are patronizing during special seasons. So, and they will be using currently the boats that are not sometimes used for human transportation, but this is happening. So it's very interesting that if you could develop these areas for the recreational boating, and it's close to Indian continent as well. So therefore, the India is very much closer, maybe maximum 29 kilometers from from Sri Lanka, the Mana Island. So a lot of promising activities are there right now. It is curtailed because of lack of investments in this area. Hope that when the authorities are looking at master plans, they will also look at these opportunities for development and also inclusion in those master plans. Then there are other prominent locations in the west coast. The Kalpitia, this is also now in the tourist map of Sri Lanka, and this is also a very popular destination for boating activities. Right now, a lot of activities are taking place in this area, and a very promising location for mini marinas and also recreational boating. Then we have in the southern coast the Bentuta River. The Bentuta is one of the already known for recreational boating activities and promoting the nautical tourism by the local hotels and individuals. It's a very interesting location where river meets the ocean, and so a lot of activities are currently happening, and this could be further developed by improving the facilities around this area. So the master plan of the government should also look at this particular investment opportunity and also the popularity of this destination. Then another important thing is in the Central Hills. This is basically we have a fairly a nice lake which is called Gregory Lake, and it's also there are a lot of boating activities going on for local and foreign tourists with minimum infrastructure. So that is also another opportunity for the master plan and also for individuals and the private sector to look at developing. So, yeah, so what's going on with regard to this marina development in Sri Lanka? What is the government involvement? Of course, we have a national export strategy which speaks of development of marinas, and these are being now. I think we are at the end of the first plan period, so we need to upgrade or revise this strategy and maybe go for more investment in these marinas. And then, so we have now noticed that a new state ministry for infrastructure development for boating industry has been formed. And so we are hoping that, we could work very closely with this ministry. Right now, we are working with them to develop this the strategy and also the nautical tourism in this country. Then, so we are also have contributed to this regulatory framework concerning boat registration and visiting yachts. So which we hope that will come into effect with the simple process of approvals and, you know, the without much limitations. Then we with EDB is working on a campaign to promote boating among local population named Boating as a Lifestyle. So which we have started in 2018. Unfortunately, in 2019 and 20, due to pandemic situation being, 2019 because of the Easter bomb attack here in Sri Lanka, and but 2020 due to pandemic. So we were not very much focused on that, but we have developed these videos which you saw at the beginning. So we want to use them and more of those videos to, you know, educate our younger generation and the population with regard to boating, to make it a lifestyle of our people in this country. Then operation of foreign yachts chartering is encouraged and facilitated. So this is happening right now. And hopefully that we are will see the development of this area in time to come. And a lot of speakers have talked about this foreign yacht chartering, so which we would like to you know, promote. I think my next speaker will also come up with new strategies for this, so I don't want to touch much on this. Then from our side, the simple initiatives we have recommended is to simplify the regulatory process for recreational boating, and we should get involved with the government to do this. And also, marina and infrastructure development is a primary concern, and we would like the government to get involved, and the private sector will support in this. Then very importantly, we need to go for a nautical tourism strategy formulation and implementation. This is neither the hour, I would say, that we have to be prepared for the next season. And so we need the authorities to look at this positively, and we are there to support from the private sector. Then also to promote Sri Lanka, as I mentioned at the beginning, as a yachting and boating destination. We would like to have 1,200 berths in 2030. So this is our ambition. And also with these facilities to attract permanent foreign residencies in development schemes, where which will you know, kickstart the nautical tourism in this country. So with this, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you very much. And I am Gamni Herat from the Boat Building Technology Improvement Institute in Sri Lanka. Thank you. Over to you, Jan.
Thank you, Mr. Gamini. It was a very comprehensive presentation. Our last presentation is by Mr. Pierre Pringas, the founder of the Sri Lanka Charter Group. And his presentation is on the opportunities for development of nautical tourism and boating and recreational boating infrastructure. Mr. Pringas, over to you.
Well, could it be that somebody's on mute?
Yeah, Mr. Pringas, are you on mute? Okay.
I was on mute,
yes,
but I tried to share my screen, but the stop sharing sign is on. I will try again. Screen. Oh my God. Margot, can you please share the screen? Margot, my assistant is online. I will do the speaking, okay? Margot?
Yes, we can see the screen now.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Pierre Pringes. I've been in Sri Lanka for the last 40 years. And actually, for largest part of it, I was in the tire business. And as Mr. Kaushal mentioned, you know, we created a fantastic dynamic development in the tire business as our company became the #1 in industrial tires. And we had about 15 companies following our example, so that Sri Lanka really is the #1 in the world in industrial tires. So in that case, we used the natural rubber as the raw material we wanted to convert into an economic opportunity. And since 2008, I have decided, as I was retiring slowly from my tire business, to put my wits on the yachting. You know, I'm a passionate yachtsman, and started building yachts for export, catamaran yachts for export. On the first slide, you can see the type fully on the right, CCAT 53, 16-meter catamaran. And on the left, we have the Ocean Diamond, is a boutique cruise boat with 10 luxury rooms. And the other products we have, mostly with sails, you know, day charter boat, and the beginning monohull yacht. And then we are specialized also in inflatables from 3 meters up to 8.5 meters. And on the extreme right, this is a cooperation with a French company, Iguana Yachts, and it's a boat which is an amphibious boat, which can land on the beach. So how I'm going to talk today, next slide, Margot, is I will talk as an entrepreneur rather than a consultant or an expert in the field. And I will look at what has happened between 2008 and 2021. Basically, we will run through a different portions of the industry with a focus on what we have done ourselves and the experience we have built up. So on the slide 2, basically, I emphasize the fact that we need different components, different capabilities to be successful in this business, because we build boats and we charter boats. So design, boat building, boat chartering and service and mooring. So we have it all. We have a company for each. Third slide, next slide, please. Our focus is, as Mr. Rajapaksa has mentioned, is on training. So we train in the boat building sector, the young people in the building sector, but we also train them in the activities at sea, namely sailing, captains and crew training, and also in the hospitality trade, because basically when you go for chartering, you're getting in the hotel trade as well. And we have 2 training centers, one in the south and one in the north. Slide number 4 is a pick out of what has happened. And I call it some of the sectors have shown an exponential growth. There are 3. Whale watching is one, which went from 2007 to 2009 from 1 to 50 boats. That's remarkable. And it was capped into 60 boats by the Wildlife Department. Jet skis. Okay, we don't manufacture jet skis, but we have dynamic importers of jet skis. So in the last 6 years, from 2014 to 2020, the numbers went up from 4 to 400. Surfboards, same thing. We don't make them here, but it went from 50 to 4,000. And there is something like the critical mass. I've seen that also in the tire business. Once we were very successful, I created the first 2 companies in the field. When we were successful, many people in Sri Lanka, and also our competitors around the world, came to Sri Lanka to make industrial tires. And that's what made the success. So we would like to create the same type of success. Now, further down in the slide, we have three dormant giants, I name it. One is the Sri Lanka Yachting Group. That's our company. Because in the last 6 years, we went only from 1 boat to 10 boats. It's not that fantastic. It's something, we will talk about it later. Then the next line is about our colleagues, other players than us in the sector of residential charter boats. Well, there are also about, I think, 10 boats or maybe a little bit more even there, but it's also very humble growth, but it's there. And then you have all the smaller boats like sport fishing boats and a great variety of things, which I think have been doing okay and will be boosting very much in the future when critical mass and the right products are in the market. Next slide, please. Next slide is, I call it the curve. Between 2014 and 2020, we developed the right products. That means the right boats. Secondly, we developed the right packages for tourism. And we are now coming to a point where we have to create a critical mass, where we will show real success. It's not with 1 or 6 or 10 boats that you will make it an economic success, but it's the beginning. So we will talk about it, how we are going to do that, but now is the time. And why do I say now is the time? Well, we talked about the COVID. Sri Lanka is closed for tourism. There are no tourists here. So we had only the local tourists to work with. And mind you, the month of March 2021 was our best sales month since the last 4 years. We have never had a month like that, all through local tourists. So this, for me, is a writing on the wall because it says two things. First of all, that the local tourists start enjoying the marine type of experience and the yachting as such. The second thing is that our products and the packages we offer are right, from residential tourist multi-day to day charter. Next slide, number 6. The map. We come back to the map and all the presentations, so I will not elaborate too much, but I have made it a little bit more like tourist itineraries, okay? We have, first of all, what we have to say is the center of gravity up to a year ago was in Marina and Goa, I would say, in terms of yachting. And of course, on the East Coast, it was Trincomalee. But now with the Colombo port city, the center of gravity has shifted to Colombo and creates fantastic opportunities. So we are looking at it as a kind of an opportunity now to say, okay, with the speeches also from Mr. Maharachi and Gamini, we have a good marina in Colombo. We have one that can potentially be developed in Trincomalee, but there is a natural harbor there. We have east and west. Now we need one north and south. In the north, it may be KKS or another place, Point Pedro or whatever. And in the south, we have the dual thing like Gaul and Marina, which are very close together. So, and from there, basically, when we bring in tourists, we can use these hubs, these major hubs, to start a journey. And the boat becomes a part of the tourist journey. I will show it in the next slide. Basically, your boat is your hotel. It's the base where you rest and you relax. It's the principal mode of transport. It limits the check-ins and the check-outs because you can stay on a boat for 2 nights, 3 nights, 6 nights, or a whole cruise of a 10 or 15-day cruise. It's a way also to experience the luxury marine lifestyle in the waters which are full of sea life, whales, dolphins, you name it, sea turtles. And it was also a way to meet genuine coastal population, because one of the problems sometimes in tourism is that tourists come to a place and who do they meet? They meet other tourists. So if we spread the geographic location of where tourists are going, automatically it will spread to a larger movement of the population. Then the last point is there is an economics, of course, with the 360 days of blue water cruising that we have in Sri Lanka. And that also investing in a boat, in a residential cruise boat, is a mobile investment. You can put it where the business is. At the right time, you can go out to another place if the business is not good. So you're not stuck with a hotel on the East Coast or the West Coast. Next slide. Next slide is about Jaffna and the north. On the slide with the map, you have seen that from Colombo, we have a whole itinerary going to the north. To travel from Colombo by car to Jaffna takes 7 hours. In all the recent discussions I had with the tourism authorities there, you know, they told me nobody comes to Jaffna, no tour operator promotes Jaffna because, you know, it's out of the way. So what we propose is to synergize the fact that a person can come to the Katunaika airport, 30 minutes later he can be booking on one of the cruise boats, and we can go and do the journey Colombo to Jaffna, not in 7 hours in a car, but maybe in 15 hours of, you know, of movement, but with 2 or 3 stopovers on the way, because there is a lot to see on that stretch. Of course, Gamini has highlighted that. And so basically, the north has 22 islands, as already mentioned, and has a fantastic number of assets in terms of possibility. For tourism development, it is an empty space. So where there is a vacuum, there is an automatic attraction, is an effect that people will want to go to this more remote and undiscovered places. 40% of the Sri Lankan coastline is there. There is a boating festival planned now in September and October with regattas. There is a famous Adams Bridge, which we need to cross now with the help of the Navy, because we use shallow draught boats. The catamarans don't draw more than 1.5 meters. With the Navy, we can ensure a safe passage. So it will be an event also, because this is a very mythic place. It will be like crossing the meridian, you know, the equator, when people go on high seas. Then pristine beaches, there is no hotel infrastructure. So there is a huge opportunity there for tourism and for cruising tourism as well. Then next slide, number 9. So here I just formalize it a little bit what I come to say. This is our Ocean Diamond, 10-room luxury cruise boat. You book it and you board it 30 minutes after you land. Then you go and set up your route to the north and you stop over. And we have this amphibious boat which can take you from at different places from the main boat to the shore. You can visit the wildlife park in Wilpatu on the way. You can go and do a kite surfing day in Kalpitya and so on. And also basically with the Colombo port, we will attract the super yachts at some point in time. Next slide, please. So now what do we want to do? We want to create this critical mass. So I have decided that we will offer to investors community and hotels, but also private investors or institutional investors, a global investment of $38 million, split up in 10 SPVs, special purpose vehicles, which are all part of the same group. We will provide to all these investors the management of the boats they buy. Every SPV will be composed out of 2 boats, one Ocean Diamond with 12 rooms and one Ocean Diamond adventure type with 8 rooms, total 20 rooms. So the investment is only 200 rooms capacity on the water. The average cost of a room, investment cost, is $190,000, which experts seem to say that it's competitive by building an hotel room on land. So the payback period that we have calculated for this investment would be 3 to 4 years. The IRR internal rate of return is 27 to 30%. And basically, we are not selling a boat, we are selling a business plan, because we will take care of all the maintenance and the management of the boats and making cooperations with the tourism. Now, what I'm saying here is that there are specialized people in charter in the world, you know. And before the pandemic, we had two major clients which were renting continuous throughout the year, each one of our boats. Okay, they have now run away. Okay, they may come back. But what we want to do here is we want to work with the tourist organizations, with the hotel group, and who have sales points all over the world to combine their classic tour packages with on-land tours, which are fantastic, to combine it with this new way to travel. It's only 200 rooms, but it will give a big leverage to experiential tourism, which Sri Lanka badly needs now in the recovery, to have something new. And essentially also with the development of the North, I think there is a huge amount of publicity and also new kind of undiscovered territory to be promoted. Thank you very much. So welcome on board to all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Pringas, for moving through that fairly quickly. We now come to the discussion part of the session. We have four panelists. They are Lawrence Chow, who is chairman of the Hong Kong Boating Industry Association and Asia representative of the ICOMIA Executive Committee. We also have Oscar Siches. He's a Marina consultant and he's a member of the ICOMIA Marinas group. And he is the convener of the ISO standard for yacht harbors. We also have Darren Oh. He is general manager, group business development of SUTL Enterprises, which owns 7 marina operating properties under the 1 Degree 15 Marina brand. And last but not least, Ms. Bhagya Mahavitraj. She is the executive officer for investor relations at the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority. I will ask each of the panels for their comment of what they have heard and where they think would be useful to contribute. I'll first call on Lawrence Chow, because I understand that he has to leave soon for another meeting. So Lawrence, over to you to make your comments.
Thank you, YP. Thank you for organizing this, and thank you, Ms. Nalika, for organizing this event. I think the conversations we had today were very constructive and enlightening. It's good to know that there is a lot of support from the government, which I think for many countries in Asia is something that we all aspire to, where our government supports our industry. So that's already half the battle there. It's also good to know that there is the aspirations to create this network of marinas and have destinations all around the island. I think that's a great starting point to build this culture that David had mentioned earlier, this culture of boating, and to create this education. It's also good to know that there's lots of opportunities in boat building and where you can export your expertise. So I think there's lots of opportunities now, and just looking in the future and how we can take this further, I think there's opportunities where you can connect with other marine industry associations, like what we are doing today, with further dialogues with other forums and events, like, for instance, the Asia Boating Dialogue that we're helping to organize later in the year, where we can all learn from one another and learn from what other countries are doing as well. I think learning from precedents would be a great starting point. And I think actually a lot of the ideas that you have here for nautical tourism and development of marinas will be very, very helpful, and they will work in synergy together. So for example, I think the idea of having these destinations all around Sri Lanka would be great in the way that you would draw people to find an interest in touring around the island and also enjoying water sports. So yeah, I'll just try to keep it short. I think in general, it's a great start, and I think there's lots of opportunities in Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Lawrence. Next, I'd like to ask Oscar Siches for his comments. Oscar, please. Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Good day, everybody. There's one thing that I've noticed has been constant through the whole event, which is like you have taken ships and recreational boats, put it in a huge bucket and mix everything. Everybody has been talking about yachting and shipping and the construction of Coast Guard vessels and the constructions of ferries and the capability of Sri Lanka just handling that. The capability, I'm sure, is there. You have done it well, the thing exists, but yachting is something different. And when you want to attract yachting people, you have to change your chip completely. Yachting is a different kind of service. It's a different kind of love for the sea. It's a different kind of expectations that the people that are coming to charter expect from Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, on that matter, is an absolute winner because it's not overdeveloped. So the people that coming to rent a boat and go around and see how it is and think about buying a boat made in Sri Lanka, they will find something totally authentic, beautiful, with very welcoming people. Well, you are one of a lot of places that cannot offer that. Because on top of that, you are like that people. You don't have to fake it. It's there, right? But you have to start thinking that yachting is a different matter to be dealt by different people. You will not use the same advisors for the shipping in Sri Lanka or for your yachting in Sri Lanka. So please think to change the chip. I know we're going late, so I will just make another point, which is the whole approach to yachting and to bringing people to Sri Lanka is not to have a boat in the marina. The whole thing is to have 1 hour a week teaching on the young people schools what are the boats just to go sailing or fishing or something like that. To have the boating school working, to have a decent arrival at the harbor where the marina is, to have the basics for those people, which are not luxury hotels. Of course, they will appreciate the luxury hotels, but they will appreciate a lot more a local bar close by that they don't have to walk 500 meters to get to. Those kind of things is what you have to develop to tell people afterwards, listen, come here, the boat is here, the bar is here, the small supermarket is there, and you will see the children just learning how to sail 100 meters away. That is very, very, very important, because that is the only way that you create the mindset that yachting has arrived in Sri Lanka. Last thing, if you are going to build harbors, but it's going to take years, put buoys. People are afraid of dropping the anchor. I mean, not afraid, we are all sailors and we know how to do it. But let's say that it's a weak point every evening. If the anchor is going to slip or if a little wind is going to pick up and take you away. So put buoy fields. People will feel safe, cost very, very little, and you have all the time in the world to develop your harbor. I'll stop now. because I know we are short in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. That's a very interesting perspective and a very important one. I will now ask Darren for his comments. Darren, interestingly, is also looking at this as an investor because his company is looking to expand. So, Darren, over to you.
Thanks, YP. Okay, I'll keep this short as well. Yeah, I mean, looking at Singapore itself, we operate a marina on an island nation and also an island destination. Sri Lanka is similar to us as an island nation and also an island destination. What I mean by that is that for marina to really work well, I think a lot of the speakers have already shared, is that we need the locals. We need to see the exponential growth in terms of boats, charters, and all that. But we also need to have a policies that really welcome all the super yachts and all the visiting boats, which is what we are seeing in Singapore as well. They are the ones that brings in the economy. In fact, the shipyards, the repairs and all that, they will also be going for that. So there are many reasons for these super yachts to come by in Sri Lanka. We will not go through one by one, but I think that this is another part of the marina operation that will make sufficient revenue to cover the cost of investing in marina. Having said that, I also want to share that building a marina and operating just as a marina itself is unlikely to be able to break even on its own. Saying this in the sense of our experience in Sentosa, Singapore, it got to be more than just a marina play, more than just a parking of boats for both local boats and overseas boats. It could be more than that in the sense that it could also be a membership club, as how we operate it in Singapore. So it's a membership club itself. You have 1,000 of members that comes to the club to experience the nautical lifestyle, to attend to events as a business networking platform where you get a lot of business deals done either on the clubhouse itself or at your boats that is berthed at the marina. These are all the very powerful things that we see in the business world in Singapore, and I'm sure that the same can happen in Sri Lanka. Yeah, so having said that, I would say that moving on to just building a marina membership itself, there are others that can be on the play as well, like the hotel rooms that's overseeing the marina. These are hotel rooms that are very attractive with a marina backdrop. Also, they can also look at the mines, meetings, incentive, convention, exhibition, spaces that is for the corporates to have meetings over here. Weddings are very, very attracted to marina setting. So there are many, many weddings that are happening at our clubhouse, and I'm sure in many of the marinas over the world. So these are all the other business elements that I would say would make marina a success, more than just a place to berth the boats. And with that, people, whether you are already owning boats, you are chartering boats, or you just come to attend events or come to attend meetings, will get closer to the marina, will get closer to the sea sports that comes together in marina. And from there, they get educated, they get experience, and the whole ecosystem grow. Yeah, I will keep it short from there, and this is our experience. And we hope to do something over in Sri Lanka on this. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Thanks for keeping it short. Last but not least, well, I deliberately kept Ms. Maha Vitraj to the end because he can hear not just the presentations but also the comments before her, and she can comment on the rest of it. And I think this is the last question we will take, and after this we will move on to the round table. So, Ms. Maha Vitraj, over to you.
Thank you, IP. After having listened to many productive and interesting, insightful presentations and discussion during the past couple of hours, I would like to brief as much as possible the comment that I have to give in terms of Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority. I mean, developing the nautical tourism. So everybody touched on the fact that we are an untapped potential in terms of developing nautical tourism in the country. Yes, we are. Despite of all the strengths that we have, being located strategically in the region, as well as we are blessed with 365-day blue sea and blue skies with an interesting coastal landscape with different ecosystems and cultural settings. And also, not only that, we have a lot of inland waterways and water bodies which are untapped. We haven't, those are all underutilized. So when we talk about the shipbuilding or boat building industry, so this is the potential that we have, not only the coastal waters, but also the inland waters. So, when we, so we are at the initial stage when we talk about the nautical tourism, but we have started, we have to start somewhere. I think we have already set the background for the development of the nautical tourism. So the first thing I think we should do is to create the culture, the yachting culture in this country. I think many of the speakers touch on this fact, especially Peter Jacobs. I think you mentioned about the importance of creating the yachting culture in the country, which will create confidence in the international partners to come and invest in the country. So this is an important fact. And also, we have, I think, we have a dedicated ministry already in line. I mean, the government has given enough priority for the sector. And also, when we talk about the tourism sector, Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority has given enough priority. It is a priority segment for us, especially when we're targeting the post-COVID situation. I think we are deviating from our traditional marketing campaigns, and we are concentrating more on how well we can develop, promote Sri Lanka as an experiential destination. So people are looking for experiences, not just to come and see the traditional tourism hubs in the country. So in that setting, I think nautical tourism can do a lot in this country. I think when we talk about the facilitation, the investor facilitation, what is really required is to take a collaborative effort, a collaborative approach, because I think Mr. Pinchas mentioned about the importance of linking this industry with the rest of the tourism industry, because when we talk about boating, it always connects or links with an experience, an activity, which connects to a broader leisure sector. So it's very important to link with all the entire industry, tourism industry in the country, where they already have established marketing links with the world. So that way, I think we can promote this industry in a better way. And also, we should not forget the fact that we were a leading destination for shipbuilding. I think this was referred by Mr. Kapila. I was happy to hear that because I think when the current leaders in this shipbuilding industry is far behind us, Sri Lanka was a leader in shipbuilding in the ancient Sri Lanka. So it's time for us to go back and grasp that opportunity. I think we have some gems within the country in this. I mean, we have set the setting for that and started, but we have to do it in a precautious way, because to avoid certain challenges that we are facing on the land. For example, over-tourism in Yala is an issue which is addressed all over the world now. So we should not allow the same thing happen in the sea. So that's why we need this collaboration with all the entities, not only in terms of facilitating investment, but also to regulate and to have the correct directive for this segment. Not to complicate, but to simplify the effort and to have the right setting. So this thing, I think I would like to highlight. And also this yachting culture, the boating as a lifestyle, this campaign is really good, I think, in terms of creating the culture. for the yachting segment in this country. I think we have already started and set up, have the right platform for this for the development of this subsector. So I would like to highlight the fact that we, as Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, we have already established a mechanism to facilitate investments, which is through the Investor Relations Unit. We have already signed agreements, MOUs with certain entities, government entities, to make sure that everybody has one voice in terms of facilitating. So with that, I think we'll be able to encourage more investments to the country. And we want to guide them also to take the right path, not to violate any existing regulations, because when somebody has violated the regulation, it's really hard for us to help. We are trying hard sometimes with some of the project proponents, so that I think we are happy to invite all the stakeholders in this sector to come and invest, or else please join with us in different ways, as with your expertise, contributing your expertise with your guidance, and help us develop this sector. Thank you for organizers of this forum. It's really insightful and very, I think this gives a very positive hope for the development of this sector. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mahavitraj. Thank you for your comments. We have, I'm sure we can go on for much longer, but under time pressure now, I think I will end this session here. Thanks to all the presenters and the panelists on this session. I will hand this back to Ms. Nalika to move it on to the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, YP, and the distinguished panelists for your valuable contribution. And without taking much time, let me introduce, it is my privilege to introduce Secretary General of the ICOMIA, Mr. Udo, to moderate the next session. It's a roundtable discussion with certain questions from the audience as well. Mr. Udo holds the German Master Craftsman qualifications in boating industry, and he has been as Secretary General of ICOMIA since 2015. So with his extensive knowledge and expertise, may be able for us to take some valuable inputs to today's workshop. Mr. Udo, over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Nalika. Just before we go ahead, time is precious right now. This final session was planned to be 1 hour. We have a bit less than 15 minutes left, so I'm just going to keep an eye on the participants count and maybe overshoot a little bit. There was a great range of questions asked in the Q&A session. Thank you all for submitting these. Of course, we don't have time to answer all of these, but they have provided a great pool, and I would like to take these by some headlines as we're able. However, and of course, to all those panelists who have some downtime now, please take your time to go through these as well and provide your input where you feel appropriate. I think some organizational questions have been asked. That's the sharing of slides. I believe the session is recorded, right? And presentations will be shared afterwards. Is that correct, Ms. Nalika?
Yes, we can share the presentations.
Very good.
Maybe a compiled version of all PPTs.
Okay.
With the permission of the presenters.
Okay, so let's have a look at the high-level headlines that were stated today. And of course, we had two directions. One was the development of the export sector, the other one, the development of the tourism sector. But all these reminded me, and I'd like to share my screen, reminded me of a contribution, a presentation given by then president of the NMMA, the US Association, Tom Damrick, at the presentation in. It doesn't really matter where it was, because this slide is applicable to any boating market, be it a established boating market or a developed market. And it circles around the question, what does boating need to grow? And I believe we have come to touch on a few of these elements here today. Some are out of our control, such as a healthy and growing economy, or the extent, the share of middle class versus upper class, and so on. But I think the third bullet is one where I'd like to focus a bit with the remaining time. It's the support of government policies, infrastructure stated as one, taxation and appropriate laws and regulations. And this, I think, is where I would like to circle some of the questions, certainly some of the participants in our panel who have or have not spoken yet. We have 6 participants in our panel. That's Mr. Matraji, who has spoken already, Secretary of the State Ministry of Boat Shipping and Industry Development. Mr. Sanjaya Mohotola, Chairman of the Board of Investment in Sri Lanka. Ms. Chitranjali Jisanyake, the Director General of the EDB Export Development Board. Ms. Bhagya Mahavitanage from the Tourism Development Authority. Mr. Gamini Herath from the Boat Building Technology Improvement Institute in Sri Lanka. Mr. Prince Lai and Mr. YP Lok. So those who have not spoken yet, I believe, is Mr. Sanjaya Mohotola. Maybe I can direct, I cannot fully see you on the webcam, so maybe that's a question. Oh yes, there we are. Hello, hi.
Hi, how are you?
So if I can just direct the question over supportive government policies, and I think we have seen some questions here over the, I think it was actually stated in one of the slides. Let me just look up at this quote. I think it was one of the slides from Mr. Matrachi, delays implementation of legislative changes. And some of the questions were stated at the regulatory framework either needed to import vessels, to operate vessels, to go on a cruise, and so on. Is that something where you could elaborate on briefly, please? What initiatives are taking place in Sri Lanka? What is your agency doing? Is there cross-agency collaboration? I think the EDB has been stated already as highly supportive of the sector, but maybe you can elaborate a bit on your initiatives, please.
Yeah, sure, Udo. Thanks for the question, and thanks everyone for the opportunity. I think listening to all the presentations is very clear in terms of how the government facilitate across multiple facets, right? So I think if you think about whether it is the marina development, it is the infrastructure that is required for boating and yachting, whether it is the conducive tourism push that the government makes, because there's a lot of tax breaks and incentives, land allocations being done to develop the marinas, adjoining hotel facilities, and so on and so forth. Then there is the incentive that's been provided for the boat builders or anyone who wants to start boat building in the country or yacht building in the country. And then it is about being able to import pleasure crafts vessels or seagoing vessels almost tax-free into the country. So there's kind of the policy framework that comes in. The second part of it that comes in is actually not the policy or the government regulation, but it's what the government puts forward as its policy for the country's development, right? So I think there were a couple of questions around how much is the top end of the pyramid of the population, how much is the middle class, and so on and so forth. In nutshell, meaning I was in Singapore for 16 years. I remember when the marina was built in 2006 or 2007, there was hardly anything, and I'm sure Darren would remember those days, right? There was hardly any yachts there. 5 years down the line, the whole marina was full. And I think, meaning, and Singaporeans, even though it was a trading hub, people weren't getting on the water that much, and then it kind of picked up. So I think what Mr. Pierre just put down, that we are in the inflection point. We are at a country with about $4,000 per capita GDP, and it is not an equally distributed GDP. So on the top end, we have enough people who do not have the avenues to get into the yachting, the pleasure crafts, spend more time on the water. And I think it's a good case in point is if you look at how surfing has picked up in Sri Lanka and how the jet skiing has picked up. Yachting is coming, meaning it's following soon, meaning not far behind, right? And the second part of it is we are also looking at adding our tourism revenues about 4 billion in 2019. Of course, COVID now hit. We are planning to get to about 10 billion by 2025 over a 4 or 5 year period. So that means you are increasing the tourism arrival by 3 or 4 fold. So the demand that is required for the vessels and all that, so that is also a part of the government thrust and the policies to really build the tourism sector. So the government, the drive to develop the economy, because we are planning to grow the economy at 6 to 7% and double the economy over a period of 10 years, the tourism industry that's coming in, and all the other things that we talked about in terms of the policy point, whether it's the tax breaks, whether it's importing the crafts at almost no taxes, allowing businesses related to tourism and yachting to be established here with full foreign ownership. Then whether it is the 30-odd marinas being developed, the new land being allocated for tourism, which will be mostly, sometimes some of these land will be only accessed by marine crafts. So all these put together, I think it creates a good ecosystem. I'm talking about purely the pleasure crafts and the kind of the ocean lifestyle, not talking about any other things. And I think rightly the gentleman talked about earlier, it's a different world. I think when you're talking about yachting versus talking about very sophisticated cable-laying vessels, there are two different spectrum of ocean vessels. I'm talking about in terms of more the ocean lifestyle point of view. So I think all these will come in when you look at the ecosystem, not just policies, but also enabling factors as well.
Thank you very much for your contribution. I'm just looking at the host of questions or quotes that I have taken down. Just being mindful of time, I just would like to touch briefly on the element of export development. That was the first session that we have heard. There was a summary of initiatives, if I can say it like that, including boat shows there that were visited. And my personal view was, on one hand, we have made efforts to attend the largest boat shows in fairly remote markets. It could be worth maybe to just get a bit of feedback of lessons learned or how relationship building, what the efforts in building these relationships works. Maybe Ms. Bhagia, you're from the, sorry, no, that's tourism development. Ms. Chitranjali Disanyake, maybe you can elaborate on the efforts that, the feedback from attending these events and what you believe is further needed to build relationships with clients as well as other shipyards.
Thank you, Udo. Yes, boat building sector, as many of the panelists and also presenters spoke about, so it's a new sector, fairly new sector for export sector, and we have been doing a lot of background work to get it developed up to the export sector, and we have a much more long way to go, but we have commenced doing international promotions and B2B meetings, etc., because we need to popularize the boat building industry in the international market. So we have just last year, I think last year or year before, we started participation at trade fairs, and one was Genoa Boat Show as well as Dusseldorf Boat Show. So what we realized is that we of course got a few very good potential leads, and actually we were able to sell about 2 boats which are displayed in one of the events, and we are the boat builders are negotiating certain other orders. With the COVID situation, of course there were major issues and it has got slowed down, but still the connections are there. So what I think is, like, we need to go into these international trade fairs. Because this is a new sector, even the sector exporters or the manufacturers has to learn a lot from the international arena. I mean, if you go to these international trade fairs, they can get the exposure as well as they can meet the people, and then the requirements could be understood better. And also what we realized is while after going for these 2 trade fairs recently, that there are segments, it's very segmentation. I mean, you have to decide or select a trade fair or a boat show which has certain categories of boat, like pleasure crafts or maybe other various other crafts. So we need to now categorize it according to the manufacturing capabilities and then take these exporters or the manufacturers to these shows. Of course, we have a very small boat building industry. There are very few players, but very active and very positive and very progressive sector. So what we thought was in the later on, I mean, we are still having B2B meetings and still things like that with the COVID situation. Where trade fairs are concerned, in the future, what we will do is we'll identify the segments and then we'll identify the exporters, and maybe it be 1 or 2 exporter, maybe it will be 1 exporter, but give the opportunity for them to go for the proper or the right selected boat shows. So, and keep on going for these boat shows as well as contact to do B2B meetings, because we need to popularize our industry and we need to show our capabilities and our potential to the international sector, because internationally, although we are recognized for tourism, we are talking about nautical tourism, and the boat building internationally, we are not still recognized as a boat building nation. But our efforts during the last few years have brought us forward, and we want to build on those things.
Yeah, thank you. I think David Lewin, he mentioned Metz Trade as well as an opportunity. I think the challenge with boat shows, if you want to meet a boat builder at a boat show, that's very difficult because everybody is busy with selling boats, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas an industry show such as Metz Trade, yes, there is no boat builder exhibiting. You might be able to come up with a stand if you're selling equipment, but you certainly will have an opportunity to meet boat builders there or representatives from shipyards. So with a bit of preparation, that could give or could open doors. I mean, some of the messages that I have heard today is definitely on the export developing side. On one hand, we were encouraging joint ventures. On the other hand, as well, technology improvement. And that sounds a bit like a chicken or egg situation to me. David, is there something, I'm just bringing in David Lewin again, maybe there's something you could just comment shortly on this, please.
Well, yes, I think, thank you, Udo. Yeah, just listening to that. Quickly on the front of boat shows, I don't think certainly Metz Trade or even the others, you should go without somebody to hold your hand. You need to have somebody who will introduce you. The work at all these shows is not done on the stand, it's done in the aisles or in the bars afterwards. You need somebody to take you who knows those people and make those introductions. Simply standing on a stand and smiling doesn't cut it anymore. As I can't remember, somebody said, you know, you stand there and they just walk past and smile at you. You need to do that. Yeah, it's the broad front. I mean, I've just made a couple of notes here. I think it's don't try to run before you can walk. Oscar made some very valid points about mooring buoys. A lot of people will prefer mooring buoys until you get the thing finished. Mooring buoys in a taxi, you know, a simple thing like having a boat with an outboard motor and a guy who will take you to shore will work very well until marinas are built. Education, participation, training, and joined up thinking between all the agencies that you have. You can't keep any one of these things in isolation. Export, tourism, education. Somebody said, and I think I mentioned it, you know, it should be part of the school curriculum. And then the training of, as Oscar said, the training of people to meet you in a marina. You know, you don't necessarily need those great big hotels straight off. You need smiley face on the dock to take your lines and to understand what you're doing, to understand what the yachty wants, to understand what the charter people want, to have that, to feel like you know what you're doing. So it's a very broad approach that it needs, and it is the joined up thinking of all the agencies to make this thing work. One thing alone will not do it.
Thank you, David. Let's continue with the panelists. Maybe a question, and staying with exports still. Maybe a question to Miss. Oh no, Miss EDB has spoken, or maybe a question to Gamini from BTI. I mean, we have heard also two initiatives. On one hand, so initiatives going to the major boat shows, but the other message that was said is Sri Lanka's fantastic strategic position in Asia, with reach to markets in the UAE, in the Maldives, in Southeast Asian countries, and so on. Is there a question to prioritize? Because you equally could say, okay, if we want to export, where do we export? Do we export to the remote existing markets? Or do we focus more on the Asian markets and provide a presence at, let's say, Singapore Yacht Show or Dubai or so? Gamini, you're on mute.
Yeah, Udo, I think now our strategy has been initially to look at the regional market first, because there had been very close ties with regard to the exports and the trade between these countries. And so we are comfortable with their requirements up to now. And we have been successful in making inroads to their markets. And so we are continuing to do that. But that is not enough for the growth of the industry that we have planned for. So we need to look at the other developed markets, and there are niches available, which I think our builders have to look at very positively. One of the strategies that we should adopt is, as mentioned earlier, select the best boat show to be present. And so there had been some recommendations from the expert panel, and I think we need to take very serious note of that. And it's not one-off participation, I would say, one-off presence. So we need to have a continuous participation in these events. And our industry should look at it very positively in repeating the participation at these events, and linking with the possible the businesses that are interested in the vessels that we are building right now. And moreover, I would say that the state authorities such as EDB and also the Ministry of the State Ministry, which has been currently active on this boat building industry, should also look at very positively to support the industry to make their presence at these events, to make the business proper into the, if you are talking about export strategy where we could double our exports or triple our exports, then I think there's a lot of support is necessary for the industry to make their presence at this market. So these are some of the thoughts that I have, and also these have been very well documented in the strategies that we have put forward for the government. So hopefully we believe that they will support us as usual, what they have done in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Gamini. Now, I just had Miss Bagia, I think, on camera, but she just disappeared because of, there we are. Hi. One question for you related to tourism. I think very interestingly, seeing the capabilities of the sector in Sri Lanka. There was mentioning of eco vessels and so on. Of course, tourism, many people are looking at sustainability. This has been stated as one of the buzzwords today. Of course, sustainability encompasses many things beyond environmental matters, society, economical sustainability. The pieces that we have seen from the charter operators on the island at the moment, they have focused on sail tourism. And one element that David Lewin has said is it's probably not enough, or maybe we have to rethink whether we just want to build at all cost a marina and put some power boats into it. Finally, also the element of buoys versus anchoring. I believe anchoring is seen in some areas as environmentally an outdated concept, where buoys can provide a more long-term protection of the seabed. Could you just comment on the element or your concept? Maybe there is a concept, or what you believe is the attractivity of sustainable tourism in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, Udo, I think it's a very valuable aspect which we need to give enough attention because sustainability, as you said, is a buzzword when it comes to tourism, especially. So when we talk about nautical tourism and the sailing, I think we should, that's why I said that it need to be a collective approach with all the stakeholders, all the relevant government entities who look after different matters in different angles. We all have to come together and identify the areas which need to be protected, and also the carrying capacity of each of these areas in terms of sailing. I think that would be that's a good planning effort that we can make to regularize and to have a good control over unplanned development of this sector. And also, as you said, when we talk about the social sustainability, I think Mr. Kaushal also touched on that. It's really, and also Mr. Oscar, it's really important to empower our Sri Lankan workforce. I think Sri Lanka has the best, youngest workforce in the world, and healthiest also. So with that, I think we should empower and train, and we have to build capacities of our people, our young people, to in this industry, to contribute in this industry, and also to serve the tourists who are sailing in the country, in the coastal waters of the country. That is very important, because when we look at this whole thing in the tourism angle, we need to differentiate ourselves, our product, from the region, from the rest of the world. In that sense, I think our the hospitality, which has already gained enough recognition in the world by the Sri Lankans. I think that aspect needs to be there in each and every product that we develop. So it's the same to the nautical tourism. We need to have our own people to serve, and own people to also to get involved in the shipbuilding industry as well, boat building industry as well, so that it will create more jobs, more job opportunities, and also with certain expertise from overseas, we can train our own workforce to make them fit into the requirement of this industry. And also to add to that, I think the differentiation from other products, I think we need to be very innovative and creative also. I think this is something that I missed in my comment also, because we have a lot of stories which was not told yet. There are about more than 120 shipwrecks around the coastal waters of the country. Each and every shipwreck has a story to tell. So so we can recreate these stories with our ships, new products. We can recreate the whole thing. Like I think there was a comment, there was somebody comment about the classic features can be added to the products that we do. So like classic cars, we can make classic boats. So yeah, so that's the differentiation we can do with the products.
Thank you very much. I'm aware we're approaching now the 15 minutes overtime mark. And I believe all those panelists who still are on the list have spoken already. So that's Mr. Prince, that's Mr. YP Lok, and also Mr. Oops, where are we? My name sheet, Mr. Matrachi. So I would like to bring this session to an end now, if that's okay, bearing in mind, yes, we are 15 minutes over time. I just would like to bring up this slide, which I initially showed in my concluding remarks, because the bottom elements of this we have not really touched on yet, but that's certainly something we have seen today, positive messaging and promotion of Sri Lanka as a market. I believe once the market picks up, distribution and service infrastructure will be of importance, and focus on quality and customer satisfaction. So I'd like to thank you all for your contributions today. I believe it is now for me to hand it back to Ms. Nalika, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Udo. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Udo, and all the distinguished panelists, speakers, because it is a High Commission effort we put together because of this pandemic situation. You know, it's really difficult to meet each other physically, to promote physically. So this is an effort to keep the momentum going, to revisit your strategies that developed, and revisit the national export strategy, and also the development plans of the new ministry. So even the SLTDA, Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, I think we have so many things to take away, and also to inculcate your strategies. Thank you all for this opportunity, the cooperation given, because it's not easy to coordinate with such a big group, but we got fullest cooperation. My big thank you to YP, to you, and you got very eminent panelists for our effort, and Ramini Kaushal from the SLSBC, and most importantly the Mangala Export Development Board, who was behind me all the time, and moreover my High Commissioner, Madam Sashikala Premardana, gave me the fullest support to put everything together. So thank you all for your valuable input. With that, we will end today's online workshop, and have a great day. Thank you all. Thank you all participants. If your questions are unanswered, please email it to us. We will put everything together to the respective institutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nalika.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Udo. Thank you, YP. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Good luck,
Thank you very
and
much.
Peter.
All the best. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Let's keep in touch. Thank you.
Keep in touch.
We do that.